Welcome back to another episode of Cardboard Hands podcast here. We are back again with my co-hosts, Flex Gods and Retrospects. How you guys doing today? What's up, everyone?
What's up, man?
Yo, what's up?
Yeah, not much, everyone. We're doing well. It's been a couple of weeks here, so we have quite a bit to talk about. And we're going to try to talk about it in a somewhat time reasonable manner because we do have other things to do today. So I want to talk about a couple of things. Just recently, this last week, we had the Dallas Card Show convention that happened, right? Is that what it was?
Collecticon. Yeah.
Oh, it was Collecticon. Okay.
Collecticon Fort Worth, Dallas.
Well, see, I didn't know anything. I don't know. That's why I need to ask you guys about it. So I want to talk about that first and foremost, because that sounded like a bit of a hoot and holler and good time, as they say, for all of our Texas. Shout out to our Texas viewers out there. We just lost a couple subscribers after I said that, but I love you guys. I'm just I'm in a good mood. And then I also want to talk about PSA tonight. And so PSA has recently graded 250,000 cards in one single week this last week. So I do want to kind of talk about that, the ramifications of that on the podcast. And in general, we want to talk about Pokemon kind of getting back to normal and distribution, kind of going back to that single wave distribution and sort of those types of things, and maybe a little crypto thrown in there as well. So got a fun podcast today. So make sure you stick around, like and subscribe as well. And let's get into it. So Flex Gods, tell us again about this Dallas Collecticon convention, this wonderful con that you went to. Because I actually didn't see a lot of content about it. I heard a couple people do a little, like some sports cards. People did some coverage, but I don't watch a lot of them. So what was your take on it? Did you take a lot of sports or Pokemon, or what was the whole thing about?
Well, it's mainly a Pokemon card convention, so I took a lot of Pokemon. It was big. Like, the line was so long. To give you perspective, we were in line. We got there. It opened at 10 or whatever. So we got there at like 9:30. It took us an hour to get inside. Do you know what I mean? So it opened
just to like get it through the line, literally,
just for the line to start moving. Yeah. So I think we got in at like 11 or something like that. So
who'd you go with?
I went with my little brother.
Nice. Oh, Van.
Yeah, I went with Van. So
nice.
It was pretty
Shout
chill.
out to anyone who knows your channel there. Van's a freaking legend. So
the GOAT.
Good to see he's still around and doing things.
But the lines were really long. There was a lot of people. It was packed. I wish so with sports cards, with the Dallas Card Show, instead of Collecticon, they'll do Thursday, Fridays. They'll do Thursdays like setup day, and then Friday is a day where someone else could, like, you can go in on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I feel like 2 days just isn't enough to like do everything, to do all the laps and do all the deals and stuff.
Really?
I think, dude, like for those conventions, it's an endless, like, I don't know, it's just endless. Like, you can dig for deals all day and you won't find all of them.
Because I'm going to Long Beach and it's going to be a 2-day thing. It's going to be Saturday, Sunday. It's also Collecticon. And I was thinking that I'd be able to get everything I needed done on Saturday, and I'd maybe be able to like skip out on Sunday and like, do Disneyland or something instead.
No. I mean, it just depends. It depends on what your goals are. Like, if you're like, if you're like very like completionist, like I want to finish the game, like you will never finish the game there, because there's too many tables and there's too many people and there's too many possible deals for you to like. It's the whole leave no rock unturned situation. You know, there's so many possibilities that you just can't really ever finish. Does that make sense?
Can I level with you right now?
What's up?
I've never been to one of those types of conventions before.
Dude, like, yeah, it's honestly hectic.
I've been through many conventions where it was like a bunch of card players, bunch of awkward smells, tables set up, nachos on the side at the food cart, and like overpriced hot dogs and stuff. But it wasn't for like specifically buying and selling. I've been to many of those for like tournaments. So every pre-qualifier or every pre-con, like big pre-con you go to in like a Magic event, or I'd imagine, I didn't go to a lot of Pokemon events. I was more of a competitive Magic player. They would always have the Pokemon stuff there too, but it's a very similar situation. But like there'd always be like the main event, which was like the game itself, the tournament, the rounds happening. And so like there'd be the side trading. But like if you could, I'm sure there's a lot of people who also haven't been to it, like break it down, like what it's like walking down into one of those conventions. Like, is it in like a big like
It's in a stadium,
Uh,
so
so
it's
like a rodeo
imagine.
stadium? Like I imagine there's like it's
Oh,
like a
where was
rodeo or
it?
something.
It was at the Fort Worth Conventions. It was really big. So the last one was at NRG Arena, which is I think a football field, but this one was at the Fort Worth Convention Center.
So it's kind of like when you go to like a state fair. In California, we have big state fairs. They have like
Probably, yeah.
the big inside like gymnasium, but like a bigger gymnasium with like all the different booths and stuff. It's kind of probably like a liken to that, but instead of having jacuzzis and garden stuff and like tractors being sold, it's like really cool cards and collectibles.
Yeah,
So
it's just a bunch of tables with a bunch of cards, and there's a lot of people walking around too who have the same goals as you and have the same types of cards as you do. So it's like sometimes you just meet like people randomly, and you talk to them, and then you're like, oh, you want to trade cards, and they're like, yeah, I got this and I got this. Do you know what I mean? Like I was talking to this one dude, and he was like, there's this whole thing, but it's like I guess he's associated with like the Ken Lee homie. I don't know if you know that dude, but he's like
yeah,
walking around trying to
the
sell.
Pokemon Network.
Yeah, he was trying to. It was one of his friends, and he was walking around. He was waiting at a booth, and he was trying to sell his cards. And I was like, "What are you trying to sell?" And it was like the Japanese play promo Gold Star Vaporeon still sealed. It was like that type of stuff. And I'm like, "That's crazy." And he's like, "Yeah, I heard they offered me 50%, so I really need to see." And I'm like, "Bro, 50% sucks." And then I don't know, it's just funny. But you find a lot of like, I don't know, you just find a lot of homies have a lot of good stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like there was this one dude that I was talking in line with, and he had two BGS 8.5s, I want to say, of the TV reporter, that one that's like super stupid low pop from
Dragon.
Dragon.
Yeah, the reverse hollow TV reporter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He had two of those. And then he was like, yeah, I'm gonna walk around to tables and see. And then it's like, obviously you're gonna get good deals from these homies because they're walking to tables, and tables are gonna offer them 50%. So if you can get up to like 75%, then it's like you can get that card if you want to get that card. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you stood in line for a whole hour basically to just.
I didn't wait in line. I was just walking around talking to homies. This is what I would do. I'll be like, yo, is this the line for selling? And then they go, yeah. And then I go, what are you selling? You know what I mean? And then you bring up the conversation from there. And then it's like, you could just kind of see what homies have. Like, it's a lot of like modern, and it's a lot of people just like dumping their like bulk. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of homies with that like higher end like stuff that you want. You know what I mean? And then it's like, there's how to explain it. There's a lot of people on a lot of different levels too. That includes the vendors. Like there's some vendors who are like on this level of like where they only deal modern or they only deal like lower end cards, and there's other vendors where they just have a table and it's only high end. Do you know what I mean? And you find a mix of in between, and there's a lot of gaps where you can bridge, like where you're like homies. There's one homie who will have like a bunch of like, he moves a lot of modern, so he's like, oh, I have these random vintage cards I want to get rid of them. And then you're like, okay, cool. And then you meet another homie who's like a sports guy, and he has a bunch of Pokemon. He's just there with sports, and you're like, well, he's like, Pokemon sells sometimes, so you can trade your Pokemon into sports. There's a lot of gaps, if that makes sense. So it's like an endless, it's just like a playground. I really don't know how to explain it. There's so many people from so many different places with so many different things, and they have so many different goals that you can like find ins and outs that really help both sides, like both parties. Does that make sense? And it like never ends.
It doesn't, but I want to get into that at the end. Okay, so I still want to hear the rest of the story though. Okay, so you got there in the morning, you kind of walk around, did some buying and selling. What's the main event at the Collecticons? Is it the Vanilla Ice concert? Is that what,
Bro,
like everyone's like
I don't want to get into
and
that.
you can hear the anticipation? Like everyone's walking around selling their Charizard. You see a base set first edition Charizard, you're like, get out of here. When's Vanilla Ice coming on? Is that kind of the energy we're going with up until? And then after the concert, then you can finally get back to business? Or what's
okay, I ignore all of that energy, and I do not care, to be completely
okay.
real.
So what other events are happening at these types of conventions besides like just a bunch of tables and people walking around with like backpacks full of $50,000 slabs?
I feel like that is the event. I don't know. I'm different. I feel like I approach the event differently from everyone else, because homies be like, I can't wait to meet Leonhardt. I can't wait to meet this person. It's like, dude, like I don't.
Were there content creators there, like a bunch of them?
There were content creators there, and people are like hyped for the concerts and all that stuff, and they're hyped for like Jason Page or whatever. But it's
so Jason Page was there too. He's everywhere. I'm not surprised.
But it's just, dude, for me, like I don't even pay attention to any of that, if I'm being completely honest. Like I couldn't tell you anything of what happened at all. There's a clip. I watched someone's vlog of like the first Collecticon, and it's like Leonhardt and everyone's like, oh my god, it's Leonhardt, and they're like walking him and they're like announcing it over the loudspeakers, and they're like, Leonhardt's going to the front stage and blah blah blah, he's gonna do this box. And there's the clip of me and Van just going through bulk boxes, like, and Leonhardt's walking by us and we are not even
Yes.
paying attention. You know what
Hell
and I
yes.
remember that exact moment. I was looking at Yu-Gi-Oh! Bulk, like LOB first editions, and the homie had them for like $3 or $4, and I was like, maybe I'll buy a bunch of these, maybe they'll look great good. And I was like, why the fuck is this loudspeaker on? I remember that.
Do you
And I was
have
like,
the clip like on your YouTube or Instagram or something?
it's someone's random YouTube vlog, because I was like,
Oh man,
I was
I
like
want to see
watching
that.
vlogs because I was like, oh, Collecticon's fun. And then I was like watching someone vlog about it, and I was like, oh, that's me and Van. And then it was like the loudspeaker go, because they were filming the Leonhardt walking up, and it's just us chilling, like going through bulk boxes.
I've caught myself in several Leonhardt Pop Shop videos because I was the only person wearing the Magikarp hat at the event. And so in any of the event, if you see some dude in a Magikarp hat walking around, that was me. So I've caught myself in the background of a couple of them. But yeah, it's always funny when you see that like at an event. So I guess like the big thing, the takeaway I wanted to have of this, because like me from the outside looking in, I'm a whatnot seller. I'm a dirty, evil scalper on Whatnot. So I'm looking at like these conventions. I'm looking at all the people who have tables and who would like potentially sell things, like yourself, who sell things. I'm just like wondering what the point is, because I could get on right now, and I could go and sell cards like literally right now on my phone. I could just kind of hop on, sell cards from my desk, not have to pack a big bag, put a table out. I just wonder if like people are getting really good deals at these conventions, like better than you would get online. How it's different from like IG or Facebook Marketplace, or if it really is the added benefit of like just all of the energy of like all the, like you said, it's like a bunch of people with the same interests walking around. It's like everyone you see there has a backpack full of cards. And it's like, when are you ever going to run into that many like-minded people? So like maybe that's really what the value is, because that's how it felt when I was going to the events. Like I was playing in events. So the reason I would go to these events, like these Magic, or when I was younger, I would go to Pokemon events. But like for the majority of my older adult life, when I'd go to an event, a card event, it would be to play in the event. And so I'd have that be the main focus, right? But like I guess when you are around so many people with like the same interests, it probably does add a really big value, I guess, just for an experience. And then even though the content creator thing, like meeting Leonhardt or whatever, maybe that's not for you or whatever, maybe that is for some people, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who went to that convention, just went to go meet their favorite content creator. So I find that to be also, I guess, an interesting element. So it's a way to do that. And it's cool to be able to meet people in person that you've been interacting with online for a long time. And I know in the last couple of years, I've made a lot of friends that I would strictly go to a convention, not because I love a lot of groups of people, or because I'm a big social guy, but just because I want to go like meet some people that I was like interacting with a lot and kind of, become friends in real life too. So I can see that level, or that level of a convention being there. But I guess other than that, I just don't see the point. Because like,
yes,
why would I sell cards at a convention? Like a big table, allegedly you have to pay a table fee. All this other, the travel fees or whatever, the hassle of bringing it in, setting up an hour before, breaking it down. It just seems like a big hassle, I guess.
I don't know. I think it's super worth it. It's just you get a lot. How do I say this? You get a lot of just spontaneous things that happen. It's easier to do trades too. And then you also, I mean, if you set up as a vendor, I've seen posts. I mean, this is just a random aside, but I've seen posts of people buying cards and they've bought like base unlimited, like random holos, and the price stickers were like $100. That's besides the point. But do you know what I mean?
So did you spend
there's a
like
lot.
all of every day buying and selling, like looking through stuff? You basically made your rounds, and like was your tactic to basically kind of start at one end and just work your way all the way around, kind of?
You just want to make the best of every opportunity, and like make the best of the time as you can, honestly. And so it's like I spent every pretty much waking moment there trying to sell something or buy something or just find something that I could trade into where there was like margins. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up, I mean, it's weird because a lot of time that stuff like falls through, but at the end of the day, all it takes is a couple big deals for things to happen, and then you're good. It's like, I don't know, this is like the thing. It's like, because there's I mean, realistically, from what I've learned at Collecticon, the basic game plan is to go to the MetaZoo booth. Because you go to the MetaZoo booth, they have a promo, and then if you can do whatever you want with that promo. Do you know what I mean? I know those promos are selling for like $30-$50, so you get a couple of those. Then you go to other booths where they have other promos, and then you do that, and then you find other just people that you can talk to and you can make deals with. So it's like there's cards that I just wanted to there's cards that I got in so cheap in where I was like, okay, if I can get 75 to 80% comps, this is easy. I 2x my money. So I got rid of those first, and I found the tables where I could be like, okay, they're down to give me 75% comps, and like instantly just do that, get some cash on those cards that I'm in so cheap. Then you find other people that like, I don't know, like I found this dude. I had these 2 theme decks, and I was like, okay, and they were like in a sealed Costco thing, and I was like, I just need to find the right person who will value this really hot. You know what I mean? And so I found a guy, and he really liked it, and I was like, okay. And that's where you find stuff like that. Like if I had to list this on eBay, I'd be probably like, I don't know, I don't even know how much it would sell for realistically. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I found a dude, and he was down to value it at 700, and I was like, okay, bet. And then so he was like, I only want to put 400 cash and do 300 trade though. And I was like, And I was like, what about this? Because he had a Mewtwo Gold Star PSA 8, and that was comping at like 950. He had it for 950 tag, and I was like, I'll give you. I think I gave him 250 cash, and then I gave him that and the 250 cash for the Mewtwo Gold Star, and then I just sold the Mewtwo Gold Star later. Do you know what I mean? So it's like stuff like that where there's so many like small minor moves that add up over time, and it's so much easier to just find the person that you need to find there for the specific thing, and you can get what you need out of that. Does that make sense?
Every day I'm hustling.
It's a grind, dude, but it's like I think it's totally worth it, and then you get cashed out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you get cashed out, you don't have to like I'm trying to think what other deals there were. Like I talked to Pokemon Butler. I don't know if you know him.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, he's on Whatnot. He's a really big Whatnot seller. He's great. He does a good job on there.
Dude, he's the homie, and it's like he really likes Japanese holos graded, and I was like, dude, I literally got this like submission back. You know what I mean? And so we did the math and we talked about it, and at the end that it was like a PSA 10 Misty's Tears, it was like PSA 10 like Arcanine, like that type of stuff. And it's like total altogether it was like 10 cards. We valued it like 2,400, and he gave me good comps. He didn't give me like bullshit comps of like this is the lowest comp, you know what I mean? And
He's
so
legit.
he gave me 75% value like cash, and I'm like, dude, like why would I not take that? So I ended up getting like 1750, and it's like 2,400. It's like, dude, if I listed those, took the time out, took all the fees, like yeah, I can make that much, but I still have to subtract fees. I have to subtract my time, and it's like, dude, like it's way easier and it's way better for me to just take this money right now and put it into something else, especially when I'm in so like my cost basis was like, I don't want to say nothing, but do you know what I mean? Like,
well, it's a collection buy, right? It's collection then grading fees. So
yeah, exactly. So it's like, why would I not take that and then just use that to put in other things? And it's just like the constant cycle. And then there's like random other deals where you find people who are like, dude, like I'm just trying to get rid of this stuff. Like this one sports dude was there, and he was like, I was like going through his boxes and like, yo, how much for these cards? And he's like, oh, like $2 to $5 a piece. I'll add them up as we go. And I was like, okay. And then like, so I found like a Wander Franco rookie card number to 99. That's like $100 card. And then, dude, like I'm telling, like that lot itself was like, it cost me and Van split it, so it cost us 150 altogether. So you put in 50, I put in 100. It's like I listed most of it today, and I think the total of that lot is like $600-$700. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you find a lot, and then for Pokemon Talk, I literally like I was like, okay, you want to do 150 on this lot? He was like 175 for the whole lot, and I was like, bet. And I was like, how about we do 185? And I was thinking 150 on the lot, and then $35 for a Fusion Strike Mew that I'm probably like, you know what I mean, like a rainbow one.
oh yeah,
And that's
cool.
yeah. And I was like, I don't know. So just
They're
add
hard to
Pokemon to
pull.
the conversation.
Really quick, let me ask you. So I know you've been like going to these shows for a minute, and I like what you were saying about being able to just get out of cards quickly for like 75 to 80% of comps, turn that into capital that you can spend, and then you're not worrying about having to list it and sell it yourself. Have you noticed that people now that like things are in more of a down market, are people not as willing to give you as much market, like, do you get what I'm trying to say?
I see what
like
you're saying.
or
I would say it just really depends on the cards. If you have liquid cards, the more liquid a card is, the more people are willing to pay. Like if a dude knows he
gotcha.
can buy a card for like, even if you can buy it for 90%, he can instantly flip to someone, he's gonna do it.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That
So,
makes sense.
it's just basically, it's like, as long as you don't have bags, then you're good.
Yeah.
That's how I
Okay. Yeah, I feel you.
I feel like
So,
that term bag has been getting a lot of heat lately. Not only has it been getting a lot of attention because there are other channels who have been using it more mainstream, other bigger channels, but those same channels are then walking it back a little bit and saying like, hey, when we say something's a bag, if it's offensive, we don't want it to be offensive. Like it's probably not a bag. I just want to say if I ever say something's a bag and you're offended by it, I'm not going to say it's not a bag, but you might want to consider looking in the mirror, because if you're offended about it, it might be a bag. I don't think I'm going to walk any of my statements about bags back here. And so I believe I agree with you, Flex. As long as you don't have bags, they do probably sell well. I will tell you, I've had some CGC submissions back that were straight hits. And they were like pristine 10s, evolutions. Those sell like great. But if it gets hit with that 8.5, and if it gets hit with even like a 9, and if it's not straight fire, it very quickly becomes a bag. Even something like a Charizard or an evolution or something like that. So yeah, I would agree. It has to be the right thing to be liquid in order for it to be desirable enough to sell quickly. Otherwise, it might sit for a little while. Because I don't think things are going to the moon anymore. It doesn't feel that way, at least. It feels like this ultra premium collections are going to the moon, right? But other than that, actually, I don't know if they've moved up much more since, what are they, like $400 now, 350, $400, something like that. I don't know. But it seems like not a lot of other things are moving.
yeah.
I guess the evolutions, those VMAX EVs are moving, as well as some Astral Radiance cards. There are buyouts happening right now. Before we get into the buyout talk, I do want to talk a little bit about buyouts though, but before that, I didn't ask, but Retro, have you ever been to a con? Since we were talking, we got kind of our takes. I've never been to one, just player based.
Dude, you'll enjoy it, honestly.
I've never been to a Collecticon specifically. I'm planning on going to the one in Denver. A lot of people seem to be going to that, so that should be a really good time. But I have been kind of like off and on. I'll go to like local card shows. There's actually one happening this weekend, so I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna try to start going like every time they have one in my area. I'm gonna try to just like start going aggressively, like now that it's a down market, just seeing if I can pick up deals, find raw stuff to grade out, whatever. It was hard when it was the hype because like no one really wanted to give you a deal. Everybody knew what like everything was worth, and even if they didn't know what it was worth, they weren't trying to like budge on stuff, or they just had stuff like overpriced. But now that the market's kind of shifted, and now that I'm like moving into like sports, F1, stuff like that, I'm excited to go and look for deals and stuff like that. So yeah, and then at Collecticon in Denver, like I don't really have like high hopes. I mean, I'm definitely gonna bring some bread, probably bring some cards that I'm trying to like trade or get out of or whatever. I'll just have to go and feel it out, you know what I mean, and see like what opportunities. I know Flex one time mentioned to me that like if it's a Pokemon type convention, go look for sports. If it's a sports type convention, go look for Pokemon. So Collecticon is probably going to be primarily like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, MetaZoo, stuff like that. So I might be like looking for sports at Collecticon Denver, and seeing if I can catch licks there, just because I feel like everybody and their mom's going to be going for deals on Pokemon and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm excited though. I like negotiating and it's always nice to be able to see cards in person, right? Especially if your goal is to grade. It's always nice. I mean, I'm willing to pay a premium too if I can see it in person and I know for a fact I'm gonna hit a 9 or a 10 compared to like trying to catch a deal online and then you get it in, you're like, oh man, like it's perfect, but then there's those back scratches that you couldn't see in the picture or whatever. Like, dude, I'll give you an extra like 10, 20, 30, $50, whatever. Like if I know I can turn around and get it to be a 9 or a 10 and I can see it in person and know like have that confidence of what I'm buying. Because not everybody, even if they know what the cards are valued like raw and they're not trying to give you like a super good deal on the raw, not everybody is like comfortable with grading. Not everybody's business model involves grading, you know what I mean? And especially like a lot of like stores that do a lot of volume. Like my buddy who runs our local shop, he just picked up a binder collection from this lady for like $800, I want to say, and I want to say there's at least like $1,600 to $2,000 worth of value. And you know, there's like a lot of Japanese stuff. There was vending series. There was different stuff in it. Southern Islands stuff like that he's like not super familiar with. And he was just kind of sending me pictures of some of the cards, and I was like, don't put anything on the shelf. Like, let me come in, let me look at it, and see if anything's like worth grading before you do that. And so I came in. He had like a couple first edition Dark Charizards English, and I looked at them and I was like, these will probably grade like a 7. And even at like 50, it's still worth to send like 7s of those cards, first edition holo Dark Charizards. But then he was telling me, he's like, well, you know, I could probably squeeze like 250 out of these. Like, if I put these up on the shelf for like 250, you know, someone's probably going to come in. And then I'm like, you know, and then I'm looking at the comps on 7s and they're like, you know, $300 to $400. And I'm like, you got to send it off to PSA for 50, wait for it to come back, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, damn, dude, I mean, if you can just turn it around and get 250 raw, that probably makes more sense in like in his business model. You know what I mean? And so then like a person could potentially buy that or like work them down to 200, you know, spend the 50 to get it graded. If they hit a 7, they can flip it for like, you know, $350, $400, and they can make that margin. But for him, since he's doing such large volume, it just doesn't make sense to grade. And so I know that there's got to be booths and people where that's the case. They're just doing so much volume that, and the margins are so good on just turning the raw that they're not trying to take out like every card minty and make that extra 25, 50, $100 by grading. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's your experience, Flex, but that's just kind of like where my head's at after kind of talking with him and just seeing what his business model is. So
Yeah, no, I agree with that sentiment. It's like every table has a different story and every table has a different, like you said, like business model. And you can kind of, how do I say this? You can kind of see a table's business model just from their inventory. Do you know what I mean? Like if a table has a bunch of graded, then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I probably should not buy. Like, and especially if you're like, yo, did you grade all these? And they're like, yeah. Then you're like, okay, I really probably shouldn't buy raw cards from them. And then you see another table where they have like one graded card that they probably traded into, and then they have all raw, and you can kind of assume that it's like, okay, they don't like spend a lot of time grading, so their margins are from just raw cards, and that's where you find the gradable stuff. Or it's like, you know what I mean? It just really depends. But each table is like super, super different. But
when they're looking left, you go right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
dude.
it's all about looking in the avenues that are, I guess, traveling the roads that are less traveled. I feel like as far as collectibles are concerned, and this is the case with a lot of things, but you can make a lot of money doing the thing that everyone's doing, i.e. grading the Champion's Path Full Art Charizard. You can make a lot of money doing that because everyone's doing it and it's so desirable. But at a certain point, I feel like that well dries up, and at a certain point, it's played out, and it's too obvious of a play. It's always important to kind of, I think, look at those things that aren't as obvious and try to go for the more. You hear it said in the niches are in the riches, or the riches are in the niches, because like that's what it is. You want to find the thing that is a little bit different that you can be unique with, because I think that's where you'll really find the most profit from. So I would agree, it's important to look where other people aren't looking.
well,
And yeah, and that's one way, is like you said, you're looking at the booths. If they have a bunch of graded cards,
yeah,
maybe you don't buy
and
the graded cards.
it's the same thing on eBay too. Like if you found a minty single to where like the multiplier on grading it is just crazy, and then you look at the seller and they have a bunch of graded cards for sale, there's probably a reason that they didn't grade that card. You know what I mean? Like not that's not always the case, but like most of the time, no one's gonna sell you something that has like a crazy multiplier. You know what I mean? If it looks like it's gonna hit a 9 or a 10. So to me, that's just like common sense, but to a lot of people out there that are like kind of searching for raw cards on eBay, just like look and pay attention. Like with sports cards, when I went to buy F1 and stuff, I would look at like lots and like singles, and I would go for auctions, but I would look at like what the sellers were selling. And most of the best cards that I got, most of the best auctions that I hit were like consignment services that were auctioning off like hundreds or thousands of raw cards like every week. And that's their business model. You know what I mean? They don't have time to sit and grade. They're just getting raw cards in, turning them around, taking the percentage off top and keeping it rocking and rolling. So you can find like good opportunities there. But yeah, if like you see a card that's going for like $50, and if you grade it at 50 and it hits a 9, you can turn around and sell it for 300, and the person's got like 10 raw cards and then like, 30 to 50 graded cards, there's probably a reason that they're not grading that. So just be wary of that, so that works in person and online, just in my experience.
So other than the convention, then Flex, how have you been other than that? How it's been like 2 or 3 weeks. Because I do want to transition to talking about grading, but I want to get the rest of what's going on with you because we really just talked about the convention. You had any crazy licks lately? Any good grades come back?
Not really. Watch, I'll name some quick convention sales. I sold my Snorlax Rockets PSA 10.
Oh yeah, what'd you get for that?
I got last comp was I got 18 for it, 1800 cash. So I was like, I can't complain about that.
That's really good. That seems
Dude,
really good.
It feels good to me. It was like, so last comp before that was like 1500.
Okay.
And then so I was like, homie was like, he was trying to trade me a bunch of junk. Well, not a bunch of junk, but you know what I mean. But he was trying to trade me a bunch of random stuff. He's the homie. He knows what's up when I say that. But he was trying to be like, well, I can do like 800 cash and like a UPC and some other stuff. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, I don't really want that stuff. Like, you know what I mean? It's too much work. And I was like, if you want it right now, I do 1800 cash. And I was like, last comp is 1500. And I thought the other last comp was 2000. And so I was like, 1800 is fair. Do you know what I mean? I think that's fair for this type of card. And then I looked it up and I was like, bro, this card's pop 78. And I looked up the other comp and turns out the other comp was 2600.
It's good.
And then yeah, so I was like, bro, like I'll do 1800 cash right now. He was gonna walk away, but his friend convinced him, and he was like, dude, like you should buy this card. Like it's a good card.
It's a cool card. The Snorlax is a pretty cool card. I'll give it that.
And so I don't know. So he scooped that up. I'm trying to think what else. I sold Mewtwo Gold Star PSA 8. I got it right away. I sold it. I sold Vaporeon Gold Star PSA. I sold a lot of Gold Stars. I sold like a Groudon Gold Star PSA 3. I sold, oh my God. I have a compilation of stuff. You know what I mean? But I sold my Lugia 10, the Japanese Neo one.
I remember when your friend got that. I remember that Lugia 10, the Japanese one, the story on that card. That's funny.
Yeah, I sold a bunch of random Curry rookies. I traded in for cash and like this random boxing card. I sold all those Japanese cards I got graded. Just a bunch of that stuff. You know what I mean?
So much more selling than buying. Did you pick anything crazy up?
No, not at all.
So you sold everything.
I'm like,
it's all selling. Okay. Well, Nick, what about you? What's new with you? I know your channel. Shout out to Retrospects. If you haven't already, please go follow Retrospects. He just hit 100 followers. He needs at least 100 more here. I want to say 1,000 more, but we can't give him 1,000 yet. I just hit 1,000, so we can't. So we hold on a second. But yo, congratulations, dude! Congratulations.
I appreciate
what else is
that,
new with you, man?
Well, it's finals week for school here coming up, so I'm gonna have like a little time before summer quarter starts. Really just been trying to do good with school. I have a lot of like outdoor type stuff I want to do over the summer, just like upgrades to the property, landscaping, stuff like that. But really, man, like I've just been really enjoying like hustling, grinding, and flipping, and I'm just constantly thinking of, again, this isn't my full-time job, but like I still want to scale this up. I want to do more. I want to stay open-minded. I want to continue to grow, and I want to see like where I can take this. So I'm probably gonna go create like an LLC and then get my reseller's permit so I can start buying inventory tax free. That'll save me a little bit of money, and help me with margins a little bit. Yeah, man, just trying to grow it and just keep it pushing. I feel like now that it's not as easy for just the average person to make money, that there's potentially more opportunity now for people that are driven, that are down to like work hard to do better and have an opportunity to scale their business or their flipping or whatever the case may be. It'd be cool. I don't even know if it's possible, but it'd be cool if I could get in with like a distributor and start getting like allocation to get like modern product. Um, I'd be down to do that. So just trying to grow, man. Just trying to keep it pushing and scale from here. What about you?
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations on your first 100, man. I
Yeah, I
it's a
appreciate
big
that.
thing, so good job with that. That's awesome, and keep it up. You're doing great work on your channel. But yeah, as far as what's new with me, let's see. Well, we hit 1,000 last week. We finally hit our first 1,000 on YouTube. It took us about a year and a half or so, and so it's been a long journey, but it feels like it's just the beginning now. So thank you everyone who is here watching, because you're all a part of that. We are going to be doing I've been planning like a big 1,000 follower like video, but like it's one of those situations where like what I have planned is a little bit outside of my comfort zone of what I usually do for my YouTube videos. And so I'm gonna like push myself. I got like a costume, and I'm gonna do I think I'm gonna get actually someone to film it for me and help me edit it, because like I'm just not good at it. But I want to make it a little bit better than I usually do my YouTube videos. Just up the quality a little, because it's for the 1,000, you know. So I've been kind of working a little bit behind the scenes on that. With the weather in California, it's been a lot nicer. We've been trying to get out and garden a little more. My girlfriend and I have been kind of going to Home Depot and getting some like back into the gardening again, working outside, and gone with our dog, and being outside a little more than we were before, which is nice. I've been cooking a little bit with the vegetables and stuff that's in town, so it's just nice to be able to go to the markets again, and kind of do that kind of real life stuff. But man, the Pokemon market's been freaking suffering. At least for me, it's been I want to say hit or miss, with more misses than hits. So it's fine. Like I've been grading a lot more, like instead of like just going on and selling, because like while it's very liquid, while there's still I think a lot of people in the market, it feels very much so like it's not as it was, and there's still too much fear. And maybe Astral Radiance isn't as exciting of a set, so maybe that's why I'm feeling that right now out of this new release. But I've been trying to take a little time away from the Pokemon, more so than selling, because like while I buy and I sell in every market, and I have to buy and sell in every market as a business, I don't necessarily like selling into these types of markets. And so if I don't have to, I oftentimes will choose to sort of step away. And that's what I've been trying to do a little bit. I mean, I'll get on here and there and I'll run an hour or two stream, but I just haven't really been feeling it to stream as long lately. And I'm sure a lot of my viewers have noticed that too. But it's just, these types of markets, it's a buyer's market. I would definitely say that right now, if you're collector boy, if you are in there looking to pick up some good stuff, like there are a lot of people who are looking to get out of this market. And I think I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I feel like there's a lot of people who are still in this market who don't want to be in the market, who would have gotten out previous if their investments hadn't fallen so much. And so I think that they are well off enough, these people who are in the hobby who don't necessarily want to be but are still in the hobby, they're well off enough that they don't have to sell, and so they're sort of sitting back and waiting, and they're just doing like the whole wait and see thing, because they don't want to sell at that much of a loss. But I don't think they would want to be in the hobby anymore. I think they're kind of done with it, away with it. And I think a lot of people would have gotten out given the opportunity to. Like if it was as easy as clicking a button, like on a stock, like you just click sell and sell on its way out. If you could do it that easily, I think there are people who would have. And now those same people are stuck, I want to say, holding that product. And that's maybe okay, because in their mind they probably like the product. Like if I had a bunch of Chilling Reign booster boxes, or if I had a lot of Evolving Skies booster boxes that I bought at $150, and now I'm seeing them, they're coming down because the reprint's coming. And into this market, I don't see Evolving Skies really skyrocketing again, even after the reprint, and it's not enough. I personally don't think there's going to be enough for the market, but I still think it might have the possibility of tanking it. And if that happens, even though people will like that product, I just don't think that they're gonna want it, you know, as much as they believe that they did. And so it's gonna put a lot of downward pressure. And I still think that there's gonna be a little bit more to fall, at least as far as modern sealed is concerned. I guess that's where, and look, I'm a bull, like I'm a modern sealed bull, like, but I'm feeling bearish, I guess is what and this is like what I've been saying every week for the last few weeks. Like I wish there was some, I don't know, argument that would make me more bullish, but I don't know. Do I feel too bearish to you guys? Does it feel like this is the same thing I'm saying every week and it's like more of the same thing?
I mean, it is going into summer too, and like last summer, I would say probably was a little bit different just because we were still dealing with, you know, the Rona Ruski and stuff like that. So, um, you know, now that that's kind of like over with and people are able to like go to concerts and go to events and stuff, and just, you know, like regular stuff's more expensive, gas is expensive, groceries are expensive. I think the idea of going out and spending like 125 bucks on a booster box to just like bring it home by yourself and break it isn't like as appealing to people anymore. Now, like at a convention or something, you know, like breaking it with your buddies and having fun like that, like that's one thing, but I don't think that that's going to, you know, create the same volume of sales that, you know, the past couple of years have seen. So yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. And there's just like a lot coming out, man. Like, I mean, there's just a lot hitting the market, right? Like the Evolving Skies, Pokemon Center ETB or restock, reprint, whatever you want to call it. The Hidden Fates ETB restock, reprint. There's, you know, going to be a reprint of Brilliant Stars. There's going to be a reprint of Evolving Skies. Pokemon Go's coming out. Astral Radiance just came out. Like, there's so much stuff out there. It's just, it's hard for any one thing to do extremely well, you know what I mean? So I mean, I don't deal in a whole lot of modern, so you'd have better perspective than me. But I do think that people are trying to move into like what they feel like are safer things right now, so just like low pop slabs and stuff like that. And trying to get out of like mass produce, and to your whole point of like people just like wanting to dump if they could, I think a lot of people miss the top. I think like, you know, with all these trophy cards that are coming up now, and some are still selling for like, you know, record high prices and stuff like that. But I think that a lot of those people with those trophy cards miss the boom. And now that it's coming down, they're like, oh crap, well, like I still want to get out of these and like get a bunch of money while I still can. I think they might have gotten like a little bit greedy. And you see that with like sealed product too, man. Like every week on PWCC, there's just tons of boxes, right? And they're like a third, a fifth, a tenth in some cases of what they were during the boom. So it's like all these people that were holding on to like, you know, Rocket and Fossil and Jungle boxes, they're like, oh crap, like well, you know, I'll take 10 grand. Like I'm cool with 10 grand. I'm cool with 8 grand, when it's like they could have got 30 to 40 bands, you know what I mean? So I think, yeah, I think people are panicking a little bit to get out of their position while they still can and take some gains off the table. I mean, it's hard to time the top, right? Like with anything, stocks, crypto, collectibles, whatever. But when you get greedy, like you never want to be stuck in a position to where you're forced to sell on the way down, you know, like
It feels like every channel is saying right now, like, I'd rather have cash than assets. Every channel is saying right now that if you don't want this thing and if you're not okay with this asset really tanking and having to hold on to it for the long term, you need cash, because everyone's sort of saying like we're going into like I guess they're predicting a crash. And so I guess at this point, like it feels like, even though I agree with that, maybe just saying it out loud though, doesn't it feel like that might be a little bit overly bearish? And isn't there that sentiment that like you'll lose more money has been lost trying to predict a crash than ever was lost in the crash itself? Or isn't there sort of a sentiment there, that a lesson to be learned? Like I'm not
it's
obviously as
yeah.
that, you know, but It just feels like when every single channel is saying this, when
It's
every single person is feeling this way, and
yeah.
then even the people like me, like you guys, are saying like, maybe these things that we really like, they don't have as many fundamentals as we think. Maybe that sentiment is a little bit overly bearish, because I know, like I said, I think I've been saying it for the last 2 to 3 months. It's like a broken record. I feel like people have got to be tired of hearing it at this point. They're like, God, dude, just tell us it's going to the moon again. Can we just like rocket ship emojis again with this bearishness all the time? But
I think it's one thing to say that with like the stock market, because at a certain point, like the stock market, and past performance isn't, an indicator of future results, and this is not financial advice and blah blah blah. But like the stock market, when sentiments are at like an all-time low, but like nothing fundamentally has changed about the company, that's one thing, right? Like it's one thing to say like, oh my God, Costco is down, 60%, or I don't know what it's down right now, but
like
I'm
a
just
tech company, which was highly speculative, that the
yeah.
fundamentals, they are kind of the same, but it did rise and fall. So yeah, you're right. Different companies are
Yeah,
different. Yeah.
for sure. And it's like one thing to say that it's like, okay, well, Costco is like still Costco, right? Like Costco's still gonna, like, people still need to eat, people still need gas, so like Costco's still Costco. With Pokemon, it's like that Pokemon is going to continue to pump out sets, and like if there's less demand, then they'll notice that and they'll scale back a little bit. But Pokemon is not going to stop all of a sudden and wait for like all these other products that are trading sideways or slowly bleeding out and going down that everybody's trying to get out of. Pokemon's not going to sit and wait for like those products to do well on the secondary market, because that's not their incentive as a business. So like it's possible that people are like overly bearish, but it's also possible that like people just got caught up in drinking the Kool-Aid, and in a time where like all of us hit prime age for the most part within like a 5 to 8 year sort of range of ages. We all got free money, we all got stuck inside, we all were on the internet, we made all these like new friends, you know what I mean? We met all these new people, and we're constantly stuck in this like tunnel vision where we're consuming content over and over and over, with people saying the same things over and over and over. And if you take a step back and take a break and take a step outside of like the echo chamber, and kind of gain some perspective, then, not saying it's right or wrong, but it's just like, well, maybe it's potential that people are just a little bit caught up, and maybe it isn't healthy just for the market to like always okay, everybody rushes to buy out the new product as soon as it gets bought out, it trends up on the secondary market. Maybe that isn't healthy, And so I think that as a business or a flipper, like you have to pivot to the adapting to the changing market. And if things do, bounce off of a bottom and go back up or whatever, great, right? Because you have inventory that you can sell through, and now you can sell and make a better margin or whatever. But if it doesn't, like, you don't want to be like over leveraged or caught with a bunch of stuff you can't sell, or like have such razor thin margins to where like you're kind of hurting yourself trying to sell out of this stuff. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I do think that there is a certain floor to Pokemon that, while with the stock market, it's a totally different situation, most likely because there are intrinsic values and there are companies behind these numbers, and there's like, a floor. With Pokemon, even though it's just cardboard, I do still feel like there's a floor, and it can't truly go to zero yet. If it went to zero, it would mean that society as a whole, we're a lot worse off, in my opinion, and then all money and all assets really wouldn't matter. So we'd have a lot more problems on our hand than Pokemon not being. If booster boxes, say, went to $10 a booster box, and there weren't other macroeconomic crazy things going on, and it was I would argue that would be the signal that there were other crazy things going on. It's like, why would I buy a $10 booster box where I need a loaf of bread right now because there's literally no food or something? It's like real issues would be for making that happen. Whereas because like I think sometimes we as collectors underestimate how much people love these things for what they are as a card game. Like, and I think there's one person that talks a lot on this that has a very unique situation, a very unique perspective that oftentimes gets lost in the other YouTube sphere as like an investor, flipper, I don't know what it is. But Mason, like Cardinal Gaming, is probably the only YouTube that I know that speaks on this subject in a way that's not just like, I'm a player, I like playing the game, or like, I'm a collector, I like collecting the game. He's out here actually talking about like, no guys, there are people who come into my store and actually like play this game, right? And like they don't have their 401ks, they don't have their closets full of these booster boxes they need to sell, and they're not relying on this. They're just buying with no intent to sell, to throw it in their binders, to play within their decks. Maybe they'll play with it, maybe they won't. And it keeps going. And like that $3 booster pack, that $3 to $4 booster pack, that ain't going to drift much lower than that, because those guys, even though their stocks, the stock market is dumped 50%, they don't care. They don't get the 401k to worry about going dumping into 50%. They're going to still go on Friday or Saturday or whatever the Pokemon day at their local LGS is. They're going to spend their extra income from their pizza delivery jobs or their waiter jobs. I know this because I did this for many years as a player, and they don't know what's going on in the macro economy. I mean, yeah, gas is expensive, all this stuff, but they're not going to stop playing Pokemon. They're going to stop playing this thing that they love because like the Pokemon collectors are up in fire and they're all like, oh no, our booster boxes are 70 something dollars. Is it possible it can go lower than MSRP? Like these guys don't even know what MSRP really, they don't care what MSRP is they're playing the game. And so I do think they're a little bit downplayed sometimes, especially because like it's just not the most exciting content. Like trading card game content to make, it's not as exciting as like the open mouth, like, oh, this card's worth $1,000. Like, oh my god, because like
Yeah, and
unless
even
you're
not
in the
just
tournament winning. So I think there is a
yeah.
floor because of that, like that we oftentimes overlook, because it's just like the lowest ones on the totem pole are the players when it comes to the YouTube sphere, but
Well, not
they are
even
the ones
just
propping it up.
yeah, not even just like the players, but just normie
The
demand.
casuals,
Yeah,
the
just
filthy
just
casuals, the
casual.
freaking
Yeah,
filthy casuals.
yeah,
Yes.
you can't underestimate casual demand. And then on the other side of that, you also so like there's this chick that I worked with, and she was like she had no idea that like any of the crazy stuff, this was like a year ago, she had no idea that any of the crazy stuff was going on with Pokemon. That stuff was just like going to the moon. She wasn't like currently collecting cards. She played Pokemon Go like every day. Like every day she got to work, she would spin the Pokestop. Like on her break, she would like catch Pokemon, blah blah blah. But this chick, like her favorite Pokemon was Leafeon, and she was saying like, yeah, like, a few years ago I was collecting cards, so back when stuff was like way cheaper. And she was like, yeah, I was just buying like every Leafeon card I could find. And I'm sure this chick's got like level X's, Leafeon Hollow. Like I can only imagine what this chick has in her binder and like what her price points were. And like I was like, hey, like if you ever want to, like selling, and she's like, no, I'm not really interested in selling. And it's like, dude, this chick could have 10 PSA 9, PSA 10 quality Leafeon level X's in there. You know what I mean? Like you have no idea. And so like on the same, you can't underestimate normie demand, but you also can't underestimate like how much is out there from just normal people that have no idea what's going on and have bangers just sitting in their binder. Now I'd say like it's a smaller percentage now than it ever has been. But there are those people out there that like love Pokemon, they're playing Pokemon Go, playing the games or whatever, and have no idea that any of this stuff is going on in the YouTube space. Because to be honest, man, like if you go to a lot of these like market channels or flipping channels or whatever you want to call it, it's the same people. You'll see the same names pop up in every chat. You see like Dan's going live with Jake, Jake's going live with Nick, Nick's going live with Dan. You know what I'm saying? Like Echo's going live. It's all the same people, and it's great. Like I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying like a lot of the audiences are like they're overlapping. And I really think that like we are in the top like 5% of like engagement and focus on the market. So I agree with you that you can't you can't underestimate normies. What do you think, Flex?
I agree with that sentiment, honestly. Even being at Collecticon, and even just me personally, I feel like everyone has a little bit of like collector boy inside them. Like I'll talk to homies who are straight pure business, do you know what I mean? But then I'll show them a certain card and I'm like, oh, I really want that. And I'm like, market price is this. And they're like so on the fence about paying market price for this type of card. You know what I mean? And it's like, I feel like all of us have that essence inside of us where if you find a certain card, you might be down to just pay market just because it hits in a certain way. You know what I mean? And I feel like we really can't underestimate that.
Yeah,
That
and so
pure essence, I guess.
yeah, that's my point, is that there's more to it than just cardboard, right? I think that's maybe kind of the thing, because like oftentimes the sentiment is like either it can all go to zero, or it's like either it's impossible for it to go to zero, or it's going to go to the moon, or it's like somewhere in the middle and it'll trend sideways. But I don't think it's any of that. I do think that there's intrinsic value to some of it. I think there are people who are invested, but not invested in the traditional sense, but are invested in like they're like invested in the game. Like they love Pokemon. They're invested in the IP, that they don't give a damn. So like, yeah, I think that's why Pokemon has a little bit more strength than something like I don't know, like Star Trek cards, because like Star Trek's cool, and you know I'm sure there's a huge gathering of people who love Star Trek who'd be into Star Trek cards, but like it doesn't have that huge like that attachment that like this that Pokemon maybe has, that's like nostalgia. And also it has to do with nostalgia. I think the Pokemon just in general hit it on the head with the whole like nostalgia thing, and like and going back to those favorite characters, like because they constantly go back to Gen 1, and like maybe they are just playing to us 30-year-olds, you know, us we're getting close to 30, so we're around this age is where we're all attached to Pokemon, and so it's just playing to us. And then like Ava's binder is over here in the corner being like, hey, I'm not 30, but she's like the only non-30-year-old. Oh wait, sorry, Colson's out there too doing his thing.
Hey, bro, I'm 27. How old are you, Flex?
29.
All right, yeah.
You
We're
guys
not
are
30.
rounding
We're
up.
not 30 quite yet. We're not
I'm
30
rounding
quite
up.
yet.
You're
Okay,
a 30-year-old
okay.
in my book is
All right.
25 and up, you're 30 at this point. So I'm
All right.
sorry.
I think a lot of on that side though, I think a lot of people like Pokemon. Like
yes.
Because I like play in the Smash scene. Oh, okay. But in the Smash scene, there's a bunch of 20-year-olds and they play all the new Pokemons. Like I'm talking like like early 20s, like not 21 yet. You know what I mean? And it's like Van has homies that he plays Pokemon with, and he's like 16, 17. So you know what I mean? I don't know if it's as big as it was before, but there's definitely still a demographic. And I'm curious. I mean, I think a way we could even guesstimate it or see it is just see the sales for like this new upcoming game and see what happens with that. I don't know. I don't know if they show demographics either of like who buys these games. I'm really curious about that. But
yeah, I'm sure they have demographics on it. I haven't looked at it per se. I know there's a lot of people that do look at the new game and they judge the new games and they become more bullish on Pokemon when the new games come out based on the new sales and everything. But like I don't know, like the Sword and Shield game, I didn't like it. Like I just straight up didn't like it. Like I played it way after the fact. There were a lot of people who were really into it, and it was like a big thing. I remember there was the controversy surrounding like not being able to bring some of your favorite Pokemon into the game, like some of the originals or whatever. You weren't able to ever transfer it over because they just didn't add the sprites in. Or it was something weird like that. I forget. Some of the chat's gonna get on me for that because
they need to make a better game.
But
that's besides
it
the
wasn't
point.
a good game. That's the thing. Yeah.
One last thing I have to say too is this. I don't know if I feel like you guys probably see this phenomenon all the time, but it's like the 20, like the old, like the late 20s, like early 30 types of people with like kids who are like 8 and they all do Pokemon together. I'm curious because you see this a lot in sports where you talk to the homie who's now like he's like 40, 50 or something, and you're like, yo, when did you start sports cards? He's like, oh, my dad collected in the 80s and like the early set, like the 70s and stuff, and they like
that's me.
It trickles down into that, and I'm curious if that's going to have an extra trickle down effect into another generation, or if those kids are going to be like, my parents like this, I didn't like this, or like, do you know what I mean? Like if they're just going to reject it completely, or if it's going to be a part of their own nostalgic thing 20 years from now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean that's definitely how I got into it. Like, even though I feel like collecting is my own individual journey, my dad is what got me into it with like sports collecting and sports cards, and it's just like you just said, and that's a very much so demographic. And so like I do see my friends who have kids, they're when I give them Pokemon cards or I go over to their house or whatever, they're opening the cards. They're not opening the cards. Their kids are opening the cards. They're enjoying it with their kids, but it's going into their binder and they're keeping it for the kids because it's more valuable now than it was back then. So I think there's a difference between now and then, but yeah, they are experiencing it together, and that is very much so a long-term play. That like it's the same reason why I give out Pokemon cards on Halloween instead of candy. Like I make little packs of Pokemon cards and give it to kids instead of candy because it's like an investment in the future of Pokemon. I feel like so, and plus the
Dude,
kids like it better than candy anyway.
kids
For the most
love
part, so
Pokemon still.
yeah,
That's where I'm like, because kids don't go. I haven't seen one kid who goes like, what is this? You know what I mean?
they
They go,
know what
oh
it
my God,
is and they
Pokemon
like
cards.
it. Yeah, that's true.
Dude, but yeah, one last thing I have to say is like I'm still on the fence in between if Pokemon can bridge that gap into like being similar to sports cards and lasting that long, or if it's just gonna go on the other direction and just become completely irrelevant and all this stuff is just, I don't know. It's interesting. We'll
Yeah,
see.
and the fact that people don't play long-term Pokemon, it doesn't help it. Like, to be 100% fair with you, the reason why I'm less bullish on long-term Pokemon and I'm more bullish on that thing right there, Magic the Gathering, that Urza's box, Urza's Destiny, or Urza's Saga box, is because you can actually use it. Like you can use that and do something with it. People play it. People still use the cards. Pokemon people collect. That's all they do. I can collect that, but I can also play with it. So I don't know. Like it would take for me to be that bullish on it. It would have to take. I guess that's why I guess maybe I like modern maybe more than I think vintage is safe because like modern continues to have a utility. It continues to have that following. It's cheap, it's accessible, it's usable. People play it in their decks. Like the number one thing I sell on my TCG player account is mostly playable cards like Arceus, the Jolteon Vs and VMAXs, any playable Ultra Balls, those playable staple cards. It's not the collector cards that sell, it's the playable cards that sell. And so like I maybe I'm biased because that's what I'm seeing, but I guess that's what I feel about Pokemon is that long term is that the modern really does hold it up.
So I'm looking at a uh a press briefing, corporate briefing that Nintendo put out when Sun and Moon dropped for 3DS, and it looks like, so in comparison to the last two games that came out before Sun and Moon, which was Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and then X and Y. So X and Y sold, it looks like 9.65 million units. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire sold 7.55 million units, and then Sun and Moon sold 12.15 million units. It looks like more people in like the European market is what they're saying. And then hold on, let me see. It says according to our latest data, we have seen that the ratio of players in their 20s and 30s has risen for Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon compared to the past Pokemon titles for Nintendo 3DS. In addition, as of the end of December 2016, we found that about 17% of Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon players had no previous Nintendo 3DS Pokemon titles in their activity log. In other words, Sun and Moon were the first Pokemon titles these players had experienced on Nintendo 3DS. So, interest is growing. Like a certain percentage of people were definitely like coming back in. Again, this is like a little bit of an older briefing, but a certain percentage of people are definitely like coming back into the games. But the average age again is between you're 20 and 30. So I worry about the aging demographic, I guess. And it's hard for me to compare things like something like Pokemon to something like comic books. It's just hard to gauge because even if you didn't really grow up with comic books and they're not like a huge deal to you, like Marvel, I'm not sure how long DC's been around, but like Marvel's been around for like more than 80 years, you know. Pokemon's been around for 25, which is great. But it's just hard to gauge, like, is it going to be something that becomes as historical as like superheroes? You know what I mean? Over the long term, and are people, because now people are, you know, in their 20s and 30s are collecting comics, and these comics from like the 1960s 1950s are selling for crazy amounts of money, but that's because they're like historical in nature, maybe. So I just wonder if Pokemon is ever going to be able to like bridge that gap, if that makes sense, and get to the point to where it has the same sort of like historical context, to where a kid that's like 10 to 15 years old right now, in 10 years when they're like 20 to 25 to 30, is going to look back on, like, let's say like a WotC set and be like, I love Pokemon, and even though I didn't grow up with this kind of stuff, this is historical, and then be like interested in it. Does that make sense?
That's my point, is it would have to rip for the next like 20 years for a kid who never experienced WotC to grow up within like the Diamond and Pearl or Heart Gold Soul, or I mean, I guess even like Black and White era, to look at it and say, look, I never experienced this, but I like the fundamentals of it, and I see it, and I just want it, not because it looks cool, because let's be real, those WotC arts are freaking ass. The Ken Sugimori, okay, it's just like cut and paste.
I don't know
Love you,
about
Ken.
that, bro. Relax,
I'm
relax.
sorry, I love Ken Sugimori art, but it's cut and paste. It's literally cut and paste on everything, and it's the only thing holding it up. It was the first thing our little tender American eyes saw when Pokemon came to the market. And if it wasn't the very first thing that we saw, and it wasn't just boom, hard eyes, I think we'd feel a little differently about it. Like, the
Yeah.
later
One
arts
thing-
are so much better. That a lot of the arts in like the later, like Neo, like
Mhm.
a lot of the when
Well,
they
even the
fleshed out-
gyms, the
yeah, even the
gyms didn't
gyms.
have the clip art backgrounds or whatever. Like the
Yeah,
gyms,
the hollow
at-
patterns are just lazy of base set. That's all.
yeah,
That's
it's
what
not.
it is.
You know what's funny is, like, we were actually looking at Chinese base the other day, and Chinese base
Tops.
has, it does, because it has the Cosmos, right? And
Cosmos
so
is
like,
nice.
exactly, but people don't want base set 2, because they're like, oh well, it's base set 2, it's
no,
like a
base set
5th reprint of base set or whatever, but it's like, it's
Okay.
got that Cosmos foil. Personally, like, I prefer the Cosmos foil on those older cards compared. I'm not a fan of like the OG hollow. I don't even know what that hollow foiling is called.
Star. They call it Star Hollow. It's the
Yeah, it doesn't do it
so
for me,
boring.
man.
It's
Yeah,
like flat. It looks like scratches on the card almost. when you
yeah.
look at it, you know?
It just, yeah, it doesn't hit as hard for me, to be honest, like as a collector. But again, Chinese base was Cosmos
WotC collectors
foil.
out there shaking their fists.
I
in the air
know,
right
man.
now. They're literally like, oh, I would unsubscribe, but I've already done it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, man. Like, I like WotC too, but I'm just saying, like, it was interesting to see the Chinese base went with Cosmos, and I saw a first edition Charizard, Chinese based Charizard with the Cosmos foil, and I was just like, geez, dude, that's fire. And it has the same first edition stamp that's, you know, it says first edition in English and stuff like that. They're kind of cool, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not.
But
It was
you love
interesting.
the base set because you're a boomer like us. You're a 30-year-old boomer. Like, I'm talking about in 20 years from now, like these kids who never grew up with it, are they
Yeah.
gonna have the same
Well,
desire just because the
yeah.
fundamentals are there, right?
Well, here's the thing too, is like, like when I got back into the hobby and I saw like Leonhardt open packs, seeing the pack art like hit. I was like, oh my God. It took me back to being in like Albertsons or Target with my mom as a kid and being like, oh my God, I remember begging to get one of these packs off the wall. But to be honest with you, like, stuff that I had no connection to as a kid, like, I never opened mid-gen packs or anything like that. But just the art in mid-gen hits so much harder for me. In E-series, like, I opened a little bit of E-series as a kid, but not like a whole lot. But as an adult, like, I love E-series and mid-gen. Like, I don't own a single like WotC card, I don't think. Well, I guess E-series is considered WotC, but I don't, like, I don't own anything from like base through the gyms. it's cool or whatever. Like I'm nostalgic for it in a sense because I grew up with it, but it's just like, it's boring. I've seen it a million times. And all this other stuff that I've discovered after getting back in is so much more interesting to me. So I don't know if that's a hot take or whatever. Like, what do you guys think?
No, I agree with that sentiment. I feel the same way. I have a handful of first edition holos, and that's it. And it's just because I ended up with them like for a good price. Like I would never, I don't want to say never. I was like, I will not go out of my way to buy WotC holos. You know what I mean? I'll go out of my way
Yeah.
to buy. I'll go out of my way to buy certain EX stuff and certain like
Mhm.
e-reader stuff, but I won't go out of my way to buy some of
It's
that
one
earlier gen stuff.
it's a condition rarity thing, right? Like WotC hollows, because they're so overprinted, and it's like, and it's also, even though it's a nostalgia thing, it's like, I don't know. I guess I'll die on this hill. Ever since I've re-entered the hobby and I've gotten back into it and I've collected it all, I have my master sets of all my WotC sets. I just don't feel the need to want more. Whereas like the other sets I do want.
Yeah,
The later
you see
stuff,
it too much. I
yeah.
feel like just from buying collections, you see WotC all the time.
Maybe
And
I'm
it-
jaded because of that. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like chasing the scarcity feels good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
So-
scarcity is nice. Scarcity is nice. And that was something that I did want to talk a little bit about, especially with
So-
like PSA coming back on board here too, because it's interesting. The pop reports for both CGC and PSA, really, really nice to be able to see all that. I think they're going to start getting fleshed out quite a bit here in the near future, because as alluded to into the beginning of this podcast, they graded PSA 250,000 cards last week. And so I did kind of want to shift this and maybe talk a little bit about PSA, since we've already been talking about graded cards anyway, and talk
Okay.
about maybe something I think I see coming in the future. I actually think that because they've graded so many, it does lead me to believe that there is a price drop imminent in the future. But I'm curious what you think maybe about that number and if you'd heard that. But that's like, that's to put it into perspective, that's about 1 million cards a month is what they're on schedule to grade at PSA. And that's not even talking about what CGC is grading either. So what do you guys think about that little piece of information?
I'm excited, honestly. As soon as they opened up 50 to the public, I was like, oh, raffles for like 30, 35 soon. So I'm just waiting for that to happen. I remember I forgot where it was exactly, but they were replying to people saying, we'll hopefully have, what is it, bulk? I don't know if it's called bulk or whatever, but it's like we should have bulk by the summer of 2022, summer, like early fall. I don't remember where I read that, but I remember reading it somewhere.
I
And
think it was PSA and Nat Turner actually, I think, put out that statement in one of their podcasts or something.
Yeah,
But
dude,
I sent off for $50 the day after that they announced it, and my order is already in grading. They already charged my account for the order, and it's already in grading. So they are moving through at a furious rate, because that's like a week or 2 weeks. They quoted me a 90-day turnaround, and it's definitely not 90 days. That's pretty interesting.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a lot faster.
Yeah, CGC is also about 2 weeks right now. I've been sending literally hundreds of cards to CGC. Yeah, funny story, guys. You know, when we started this podcast, I probably would have never thought that I would have ever sent another card to CGC, but I have about 200 cards coming back these next couple of weeks that I just sent in, and I gotta say, man, I'm loving CGC right now. I'm kind of a big CGC shill, and I don't know what I can say really bad about them, except for like some of their weird like celebrity practices that they do, where they partner with celebrities and their head grader will like then grade directly on premise. Like, I don't know. I don't like partnerships like that, because it feels like it's a little bit, takes some of the objectivity away from grading, which I don't know. I'm a big fan of objectivity when it comes to those types of things. But other than that, man, I think I really like CGC again. Like, I like it.
Have you tried selling them yet? I'm curious about how that goes.
So I've sold only a couple of the bigger ones. I've had 2 subs come back. One of my subs was mostly for other people, but the other one had some tins in it, and I did sell a couple of those tins, and they sold pretty well. And so just selling a couple of my tins paid for basically one of the subs. And so like I have a bunch of extra slabs that I have yet to sell, like a lot of 9s and 9.5s. So I will say that anyone out there who's looking to grade with CGC, if you know what they're looking for, if you know what you're sending, and if you pre-grade correctly, I do believe that there are plays to be made. If you're just sending, like opening cards and sending them to CGC, you're going to get wrecked. You're going to get a bunch of 8s and 8.5s, just like normal. Nothing's changed with that grading scale. But if you are looking at the cards and being really, really hard on it objectively, like really, really hard on your pre-grades, if you're doing that correctly and sending, I recently got 26% gem or a pristine rate on one order. And that was my order that I just combed over with a fine tooth comb with my eyes. My girlfriend helped me because she has better eyes than me. And we got really good rate on that. We sent another order in that I knew was slightly, it was like my second tier rate, where after the first order was combed through, I was like, okay, I have some cards that I still think would 10, but less likely. I got a 11%, so 11% out of 50 pristine rate, with 2 of them being perfects, and that was one of my recent ones. So they are giving out a much higher percentage of 10s, and all the rest were like 9s and 9.5s, which I'm okay with. Like I'm actually kind of okay with like a CGC 9 or 9.5. It's the 8.5 that I start getting a little salty about, but other than that, like I haven't tried to sell them. So like to your point, I'll tell you about the liquidity next week once I've actually had a chance to actually list and sell through some of them. I haven't decided how I'm going to sell them though, because my channel is not a slab channel. I was considering putting some up for auction on eBay because it literally just doesn't matter. Like I said, the couple of 10s that I got paid for the submission, so anything else is gravy. But at the same time, I might just list them as the lowest on eBay, buy it now, and just kind of have it as a buy it now, just to slowly trickle that onto the market. So it's one of those things that I'm becoming much more comfortable doing, is sending large lots to get graded for what I call the pristine 10 or the perfect 10 lottery. I'm not sending like beat up cards. I'm not sending like middle grade cards. I'm literally sending only the most pristine of the pristine cards to try to get that lottery at 10, because they sell for quite a premium. The 10s, even though they're giving out more, they still sell for a higher premium than a PSA 10 does. So, and it costs a lot less to do. And with like a $1 ultra modern card, when I have a stack of them, like literally a stack of 40, I can just look through all 40 and try to pick the best 5 and play the lottery.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm curious because I have a handful of cards. I have like a little stack I've been compiling of cards I want to send to BGS. So I'm debating if I want to do the CGC one. That's where I'm at, because I'm like, I want to shoot for the pristine 10s or like the black label 10s, but I don't know. I'm so on the fence.
It cost me $13.50 to send. I sent in per bulk card. So it's about $700, $750 to send in like a whole bulk order of 500 or 50 cards. And I got 2 pristines, or 1 pristine and 1 perfect on 2 cards that I sent. I only sent 2. One was perfect and one was pristine. So you very much so can get those perfect if you have a good eye for it. And I know for a fact you've got a good eye for it. So it's one of those things that, like, with certain cards, like a Vaporeon or a water type, or a certain card with a certain color background, I like the blue and gold pristine and perfect labels better than I like a Beckett black label or a gold Beckett or whatever the square Beckett slab for certain cards. Whereas other cards, I like the Beckett better. So it's a matter of like preference. But yeah, I definitely think there are plays to be made. And when the turnaround is literally 2.5 weeks, I mean, it's very much so. It's just another play. It's another fun way to interact with the hobby that I think a lot of people just didn't do because they think grading takes 2 years. Like that's the whole narrative around PSA.
Yeah, it's still like that. That's so funny.
But it doesn't. Grading is like it's really quick now. So like it's a new way to interact with the hobby that, like, while I personally am not a big grader like for myself, I think it's fun to play that game because it's I don't know. I look forward to my submissions when I get them back now. It's something to look forward to. Like I'm checking my CGC orders every couple of days to see where they're at and just keep an eye on them. And it's another fun way to interact with the hobby for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've been on the fence about it. I need to research the margins of CGC versus BGS. BGS wait times are like 3 months, I think.
And the BGS, it's like if it's not a 10, does it sell for really that much more than a PSA 9?
No, not really.
Like
honestly.
a 9.5, for example, how much more does it sell for than a 9? It doesn't get 10 prices, right?
No, not even close. I think it goes a little bit over a 9. Like maybe like I don't know. Let me
And
think.
for subgrades, people won't look at Beckett if it doesn't have subgrades, right?
I don't think so. I think the only thing is if people see a 9.5, the way you could get a little bit off of it is like people want to crack it and send a PSA for a PSA 10.
And there's more plays to be had with 9.5 CGCs than there are with 9.5 Beckett's. Beckett's already have too much of a premium for that, and it costs too much to submit. To get a 9.5 CGC, you know what it costs? $13.50. To get a 9.5 Beckett, you know what it costs? Probably at least $30.
35.
Yeah, 35.
And most people
Yeah.
won't look at a Beckett unless it has the subgrades. If you want subgrades, what's it like 150? It's
Really quick, while we're talking about grading, should I crack this and try to get a BGS 9.5? It's
what is it? A 9 PSA?
Umbreon
Yeah, it's
Prime.
a PSA 9. Dude, I honestly, after going to Collecticon, I saw this one dude. He had a bunch of BGS 9 slabs, and I was like, dude, all my PSA 9s are way nicer than this. I'm pretty sure they can 9.5. I'm debating cracking a lot of 9s and just trying to get the 9.5s. But then I'm like, should I do it or no? I don't know, because
Dude.
I know this won't 10 after
PSA
looking at it.
9s, I've never seen as much range in cards as I have seen in PSA 9s. Like, I've seen PSA 9s that look fucking pristine. They look like they're literally a painting of a card. It's like, holy crap, there's not a white dot. What kind of bad week was the grader having here? And then I've seen PSA 9s that were the other way, that had like white dots on every corner, where I'm like, yo, I have PSA 1s that look better than this. This is bad. So like I feel like the 9 is such an ambiguous score. It's like the synonymous grade is like the CGC 8.5. That's literally what they do when they just don't know what to do with the card. They just want to look at it from afar and it's like, I'd slap a 9 on it. I don't know though, but if you're saying it looks nice, you may want to crack it. I mean, you got a better eye than I've seen like a lot of people for with this stuff.
I've noticed too that PSA grades trophy cards like way more lenient. Like the 9s and 8s of a lot of trophy cards are yikes. But I mean, it looks good for your business, right? To have like a trophy card in a high grade in a PSA case. So I guess there's some incentive there. Part of that might be too that they're trying to like grade around a curve on like how the cards are just, I don't know. But as far as like that Umbreon goes, I think it'd be cool too because it's the prime, and so you get like the gold label is kind of like a color match a little bit.
Even if it's a silver label, it will color match better because the silver borders.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. I guess it depends on like what you're in it for and like how much of a premium. Sorry, how much of a premium like you could expect by potentially getting the BGS 9.5 out of it.
Umbreon's a popular character, so
It's like this is the gap. Is a PSA 9 goes for like 300, a PSA 10 goes for 3,000, I think. So it's like that's where I'm like, dude, like I don't know. I mean, obviously, a 9.5 will be more than PSA 9, but it's like,
do you
where
not
is
think
that?
it'll get a 10 if you were to crack it and try to do PSA again?
It's one of those cards. I think I talked about it with the Dunkin' Go Nuts one I had, where I was like, this won't 10, but it'll probably BGS 9. It feels the same way. It just has a few. I remember looking at it. So basically, it has like one speck of like whitening, and then it has like one hollow scratch. So I'm like, that's a BGS 9. Do you know 9.5? You know what I mean? Like just those few minor things. But I'm like, PSA won't give it a 10 with those. So
no
like,
way. PSA does not like hollow scratches. That's the.
So I'm thinking it'd be like 9.5 edges, like 9.5 corner. I'm expecting 9.5 all the way around. You know what I mean? So
It'll
I think
cost
it'd
you
be a
like
true.
close to, if you don't get subs though, it'll cost you like $35 plus the shipping, almost $50.
I have a BGS sub I'm setting up, so I'm just debating about throwing stuff like that in that I have slabbed as 9s already and just cracking them and getting the 9.5. Because I mean, obviously the 9.5 like I have a bunch of EX era cards too where I thought they deserved like whereas like, oh, these could probably PSA 10 if they're being lenient that day. Do you know what I mean?
I have a couple 9.5s I was considering sending their CGCs, sending in the slab to PSA to test them to see what they say.
They probably say no. I don't know. I read this whole thread about it of people trying to cross grade BGS to PSA, and they just were like, nah, it's not a PSA 10, especially if it's not a BGS 9.5. But then they cracked it and sent it in, and they got the PSA 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think it's like a psychological thing.
Yeah, no,
because they
I
don't
know,
want
I know why. I know why. It just seems like it would be a fun like.
Yo,
experiment.
also really quick, I gotta go.
Oh
So,
shoot, we went
yeah.
long. Okay, so we'll go a little longer here.
You guys can talk. Yeah, I was gonna
me
say.
and Nick. But yeah, everyone go follow Flex. And I'm sorry we went so long today, but we'll keep
chilling.
talking
It
a
was a
little
good
bit
time.
longer here.
Wait, really quick, Flex, are you pulling up to Denver?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Denver. When is
Sick.
it?
Hell yeah. It's in October.
I'll probably go. Yeah.
Sweet. Be cool to meet you in person.
All right, bet. I'll see you guys then. But yeah,
Yep, have a good
we'll
night.
talk in a couple weeks. Later.
Peace.
Yeah, so I do still kind of want to talk about just in general, Pokemon kind of going back to normal. I feel like we've talked enough about the grading here, so I'm glad we kind of got to talk about that because definitely Flex is like our resident expert in grading at this point. It's many freaking cards. That guy has the best luck with his grades. It is ridiculous. Like I don't want to call it luck at this point. I would have called it luck earlier if I hadn't seen it so many times happen. But what the hell, these freaking licks this guy gets. But anyway, since we've talked about grading, I kind of want to talk about Pokemon going back to normal because like I've been seeing this and I know a lot of our viewers would like to hear it from this side, but this is not something a lot of people are talking about on the Pokemon side. But distribution is back to normal. Like, how do I put this? They fixed the supply shit. The supply chain stuff, there's no issues with that right now. Like all of Astral Radiance came exactly when it was supposed to. Like I feel like I heard like rumors of like short supply or like, but that was just people trying to pump the market, I think a little bit, because it literally came with no problem, no hicks. It's still in stock at my distributor, so I can still buy it. And I know a lot of other people can still buy it. And I don't see like in the price of booster boxes, while it hasn't tanked, it's sort of stayed level. I think it's gone just a little bit above. It's I think as of filming this video, the price is like close to 105 to 110 for like an Astral Radiance booster box, somewhere between there, trending on like TCG Player, which is pretty good. Like you can, that's a couple bucks, you're making a couple dollars a margin, but it does lead me to, and then also with Pokemon Go, allocations have been given, and I've gotten word that should all be releasing, and it's all starting to kind of come in as normal. And so, like that being said, though, most of these people who are in this market have never experienced a normal distribution of Pokemon. They're used to this like small wave gets put on the market, it gets bought up, it goes up on the secondary market, and then the second wave comes and it gets nuked, and then it gets nuked again when the third wave hits, unless it's Evolving Skies. And so most people are used to that. That is no more. That is not going to happen anymore. I want to be crystal clear. As far as I know, the next two sets, both the Pokemon Go set and Astral Radiance, are getting all of their allocation on the first wave. That is to be, I want to make it also clear, though, that's not to be said that they're not going to get reprints again, because that just means that it leaves them the ability that if that gets eaten up, they can plan another reprint and give a full-blown reprint for the market. And instead of having to release it at these times when the market doesn't want it, 3-6 months later, once the set's sort of dead and we've moved on to the next 5 sets, they can actually give it to the market when they want it, when they can eat it up right on release. And then what's left over can kind of sort of find its place. And so I think that it's a good thing. I personally think that it's going to take some getting used to for what people are, because there are still people who are going on. I'm on like the Twitter accounts where it's like Pokemon drops, and they tell you when something gets released on GameStop. It's like, go buy. And like everyone in the comments are like, I missed out. I still think there are people out there who think that there are going to be these like big supply issues. But like Pokemon wants to make money. Yeah. Pokemon makes money by printing cards. Pokemon don't make no money by us selling our cards on eBay. And if the prices go higher on eBay, Pokemon don't care none. Pokemon wants to make money, and so Pokemon's going to pump out as many cards as the market can eat. And I think they do care about the secondary market a little tiny bit more than I think that I'm letting on, but I don't think they give a rat's ass about how much it's going for. They just want to make sure that the secondary market is happy enough that they're going to keep on buying it at the rate that it's going to be printed. They can adjust those printings, but that being said, the old way of distribution, it seems to be back, and I couldn't be happier about it. And I think you might have some options, that being said, going into distribution in the near future, because there's not a big mad rush to get into it.
That'd be sweet, man. I'd love to be able to get into distribution. My thinking is they don't care probably about secondary market prices, but they do care how easy it is for the end, I guess not the end consumer, but like people like you that are buying from a distributor, or like an LGS that's buying from a distributor, how easy it is for them to move product. Now they might not necessarily care if that's like at 105 or 120, but I think they're going to care at like the volume at which you guys can move through that product. So to me, kind of like you said, it's less risk to just pump out one wave up front and then go back to stuff that you know has demand, right? Like your Evolving Skies, your Brilliant Stars, things like that, and just print that. And then if people do really want Astral Radiance and you see the secondary market ripping up to like 150, 175 a box, great, like go reprint it. But if not, like you don't have to, and they could, print more Hidden Fates ETBs. I mean, those flew off Pokemon Center, off their website. You know what I mean? So like they could just keep doing that, right? It's like they're a business. Their incentive is to make money. And now that everything's like cooled down and they can kind of like catch their breath a little bit too, they're going to make the decisions that are best for them, and so they're going to find the products that sell. And again, like certain things logistically are harder to print, like the figure collections and blah blah blah, stuff like that. But like those Evolution premium collections or whatever, those are going for like $90 now on the secondary market. Like those things are hot. The demand is popping for those. What's to stop Pokemon from like redoing those? You know what I mean? Like they know the demand is crazy. So it's like, well, why would they pump out all these other products they don't think people are going to want when they could just sell stuff that's like a guaranteed sale? Right. And like, even if it affects the secondary market to where they drop down from like 90 to, like 65 or something, let's say, like Pokemon doesn't care, because at the end of the day, like the end user's happy because they can now get it for a little bit cheaper. And the volume is probably going to be more because more people can afford to buy it at a 65, than at like a 90 or something like that. So yeah, man, I agree with you. It'll be interesting to see where it goes forward. It'll be interesting because like I know Astral Radiance, I mean, everybody's got their own opinion and stuff like that, but it doesn't seem to be quite as hot of a set. Now people seem to be really excited about Pokemon Go. But if Pokemon Go comes out and it doesn't really live up to people's expectations, and it's like a battle styles Chilling Reign situation to where it's kind of like two mid sets back to back, if they don't come out with something like super fire after that, then it definitely is going to be in Pokemon's best interest to short print those and just go back to Evolving Sky, go back to stuff that they know works. You know what I mean? So what do you think about all that?
Yeah, and I think that what we're going to see is exactly that. I think what we're going to see is the print runs are going to get a little tightened not in this next set, not in Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go is already printed and it's printed to the ground. This is going to be a huge, massive set. But if it's not absorbed by the market, I don't believe we're going to see subsequent reprints of it, not unnecessarily. And that it felt very much so like when we got the Fusion Strike, the Battle Styles, the Evolving Skies, Vivid Voltage, Darkness Ablaze at the end of the year last year. It very much so felt like the market did not want that. But what people don't realize is that was already pre-ordered. That was already pre-ordered by the market, by all these game stores, and they had to take those as their obligation to the waves or to the allocations. So like This is a different situation where I do believe that it is printed. The demand is not, it's not eaten up. You're still seeing it on Pokemon Center. You're still seeing it at LGS's. You can pre-order at your local LGS. You don't have to go online and get it for like $120. Like I sold, and I saw being sold Champions Pack ETBs on release for close to $100. I think it got almost it got over $100 to a certain point, and that was market price. Call me what you will, scalper, evil, reseller, but I was printing and I got them straight from distributor, and so was everyone else, whether they wanted to tell you they were or not, and they want to virtue signal and say, well, I would never do that, I would sell it. Yeah, no, you wouldn't. So you weren't there if you were, and if you were selling at those prices, you're a freaking fool. And so I sold them all the way up to, I think, almost $120. I don't think it got all the way there, but it got close. And then it crashed hard. And so, like, that was a different situation. This, on the other hand, it doesn't feel like it's ever going to get there. I don't think we're seeing it. It never even reached like $55 or $60 like on eBay, did it? I mean, maybe it did. Maybe some of the Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs right after it got released got put up on eBay, and people foolishly paid way over market, not realizing they could get it on the website. But that's just, I think, because they're used to the 2020, the old, like, the wave system, the system where they didn't give us enough. I'm here to say that as someone who was around just before that, who saw before the wave system, it's actually a good thing, and it's much easier to predict what the market wants, and it's easier to sell it too. But it is going to be one of those things that I don't think the market is ready for that. And I think there are still some people who are just in that mode where it's like, buy, because they think that it's, I don't know, it's going to go to the moon. It's going to rocket ship and make them $1 million. This mentality that you can get rich quick that happened over the last couple of years that we saw actually come into fruition for a lot of people. The media pumped it. You read about it online. The crypto millionaires, the people who made $1 million in Pokemon, all this stuff you read about, it really pumped the general public's expectations to the point where it is maybe a little bit toxic or a little bit unhealthy for the market, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I think that the people left around that are willing to put in the work, that are willing to adapt, that can kind of like weather the storm. Because it's like you, for instance, like you're not just like turning around and like listing stuff on a website, right? Like you're putting in work. Like you sell on TCG Player and eBay and stuff like that, but it's like you stream, you've built a following, you've got a YouTube channel, like you've done all this work to build these distribution outlets, I guess, for you to be able to move through product. Whereas a lot of people were just like, okay, let me get an LLC, I'll put my apartment down as the address for my business, let me get in with a distributor, right? And then they're hoping that they can just then turn around, go on OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace, eBay, and turn around and like flip these boxes. And that's not as sustainable anymore. So people like you that are like able to survive this downturn and have already like built the foundation, like laid the concrete, to build the business on, I think people like you are going to do a lot better. And a lot of these other people are just like getting washed out. They're getting wrecked. The other thing too is like when one of the main things I'm worried about is going into distribution is like because I don't have the sort of foundation that you have set up for as far as like being able to get rid of modern product. I'm worried that like if Pokemon does not have like greatest sets, that I might get stuck with that because I'm forced to take the allocation, or I get stuck with cases of theme decks, or you know what I mean. I don't have a storefront, so it's gonna be pretty hard for me to move theme decks. I could sell them on eBay and take a little loss, and then hope that the gains I'm getting on like the booster boxes and the V boxes and all that sort of stuff like kind of outpaces it. But what do you think about all that? Like, are you forced to take stuff you don't want a lot of the time? I know your distribution situation is kind of unique because you know the guy like in person and stuff like that. So are you forced to take stuff you don't want, and does that ever put you in a bad spot? Or can you see it putting you in a bad spot in the future?
Yeah, so I've sort of spoken a little bit of this on previous podcasts, and my distribution situation is just a little bit different than someone like yourself. If you were to get in with a normal onboarding situation, you would be required to take those theme decks. Those objects like the Pikachu with the Mimikyu box. You remember the new Pikachu V box that came out with Mimikyu? It had 2 Fusion Strikes and I think 2 Chilling Rain packs in it. Is garbage. Literally, I couldn't give that stuff away. And the promos are bad too. Like, I like Mimikyu, but like you would have to take a couple of those. You'd have to take a couple of the theme decks. You would have to take a couple of the, of course, the cleaver boxes, which if you looked on TCG Player right now, the cleaver boxes retail for $40 MSRP, but they're selling for about $37. So, after shipping and fees, you're not getting that $40 that Target's getting. And so like you would have to take those. You wouldn't be buying them for $40 either though. So like you'd be buying them for closer to like $25 or $26. Now you have to pay taxes on that at the end. And so you are still paying some fees, but it's a different way because you can find ways of, getting that tax down a little bit by expenses and business costs, that kind of stuff. So there are ways you can downplay that effect, but you definitely, I think, would have to take some of those items if you weren't in a situation with your distributor where you either you knew them and they were okay with you only purchasing booster cases. Maybe right up front you got in with them and you said, hey, look, man, I'm only looking to take 2 or 3 booster cases of each set when it comes out. If you could just shoot that to me every time, I'd be grateful, eternally grateful. And you just kind of have a really low-key relationship with them that way. I don't know if that works because like I personally deal in the 4 or 5, every single distribution order I make is in the 4 to 5 figures. So like, and I go 2 to 3 times a month. So like, if you're dealing in that little, I just don't know if it's worth the distributor's time just to give you a couple of cases and them to work with you. Whereas if you're dealing in that much quantity, I think they would be willing to work with you a little bit more maybe. Now, I don't know though, because there are hundreds of distributors. So it really depends on that individual business and their business model and how it was worth it for them. Because if we're talking like 2017 or 2018, it would have probably been worth it for them to sell a couple of cases on the side on the extra because it wasn't a huge demand. Like if we're talking 2021, when everyone and their mother just wishes they had an extra case of whatever set it is, whether it's Steam decks or otherwise, and they're getting banged on the door just to kind of, their voicemail box is full every day they walk into work and they're just tired of getting emails. No, they're probably not going to work with you at all. And they're probably not going to take anyone. But right now we're past that. Right now we're more in that state where everyone's trying to get out. People are defaulting on orders. I am getting more Amazon returns than I've ever been able to purchase. So my distributor, one of his main purchasers is Amazon. And so he's a big dog distributor. And so he also, with the Amazon deal, I don't know if I probably shouldn't say too much, but he has to take returns. And so part of the deal is he has to take returns. If someone, like if you buy something on Amazon, if you don't like it, you say, I don't like this. I didn't pull the right card. Amazon almost always accepts returns back. Whether it should be or it shouldn't be, they are very good to their customers in that regard, or they have a history of being that way. And so, well, those cards have to go back to someone, right? They have to go somewhere. And so they don't go back to Amazon. Amazon doesn't want them once you've ripped them open and there's all those green code cards. They don't want them. And so they go back to the distributor, the person who sells it to them. And so in the last year or two, have purchased most of those go backs. And sometimes you see they are ripped open. A lot of the time they're dented boxes. It's a sealed collector and they get an ETB with a rip in it. And so they'll send it back and it's still coldly sealed, but it has a rip in the ETB, things like that. I always purchase them because I can purchase them at an extreme discount. I purchase them, I break them down for the packs and I use the packs that are inside because I'm ripping them on my channel anyway. So I can get them for cheaper than distribution prices. We've not had very many of those over the last 2 years. Most people were not returning any Pokemon products they bought on Amazon. They bought it and they sold it probably on eBay. They didn't do the return because no matter what, even if it was a dented box, it was still worth more than what they bought it on Amazon for. That is not the case for the last month. I got so many returns from Amazon that I literally couldn't. I usually get it all. I usually say, give me all of it. My distributor had a whole warehouse of stuff. He's like, hey, today you don't have to take all of it. We're just going to get what we can because I know space is limited for you and we have way more than you're going to be able to take. And if that's not telling to the market, I don't care what anyone out there who sells slabs or sells vintage who wants to signal and say the market's fine. It's great. It's fine. If just the sheer amount of returns from the normies on Amazon are any indication, the market's not as healthy as it was a month ago. It's strictly not, because now when you buy something on Amazon, it doesn't just make sense to sell it on eBay. It actually makes sense to get your money back from Amazon if it's a dent, whatever it is, whatever the situation is. So that's something that maybe people don't see. Maybe I'm seeing this and I'm like, it's making me more bearish than I should be because I have this information. Maybe I'm extrapolating too much from all these returns. But like I don't know, it just seems really telling to me. It seems extremely telling that I've been doing this for 2 years regularly as a business. And I would get 1 or 2 boxes, a couple of weeks from Amazon returns to be like, oh, hey, this ETB had a rip in it. And so it's clearly a collector. So I'll get that. It's literally a warehouse full. And that's just from this month. And it's never been that way before. And that's also why I'm able to continue buying those Arceus V boxes. Imagine if the Arceus V box that has the Cosmic Eclipse came out in October of last year when everyone still thought everything was going to the moon. It would not still be available for sale right now. People would have just bought it out. And now those people probably wouldn't have opened it. Those would be fire sailing it right now as the economy has suffered and people are diving out, like, doing their swan dives out of the hobby. But it is, to me, it feels more telling than anything the Amazon returns. That's just what I see. And it's not bad stuff. Like, it's this kind of stuff. People are returning these.
Like, what's wrong with it?
It's got a dented corner. It has a dented corner. See that? It's kind of dented.
That's
right
it?
there. That's the type of stuff. And look, it's a little bit dented and like,
But everything inside is
it's great. It's fine. I'm
fine.
probably gonna rip it open for the promos just because it is dented, unless someone wants to rip it on the channel and they don't mind it being dented or something. But
so what sort of discount do you get on, like, what percent? You don't have to say specific numbers if you don't want, but what sort of like percentage discount are you getting on items that have slight like dents and stuff like that?
So like for that item, usually from distribution, in a case of 6, you'd buy them, it'd be $24.50 for a case for each one of them. So times 6 was like 100 and something bucks. So it's roughly $25 each. So like $150 for the case of them. I got that one because it's a dented go back. I think I picked up for like $10.
No way, dude. Are you serious?
Because here's the thing: the distributor, after it's a go back, he can't do anything with it. It's garbage to him. He can't sell. It's like, what's he gonna do? And he has to take the loss on it. And it's a certain amount of loss is built into a distributor's business plan. Most likely, I can't speak for all distributors, but I know that when I'm talking to mine, he said a certain amount of loss is built in for it. And so like after he takes that loss, it then just becomes dead. And so I've always been in the situation where, since I'll rip it open for the packs anyway and sell the promos, and I just want the box, I'm happy to take that product at it. And I'm sure everyone watching is like, yeah, I'm happy too. Yeah, I'll be right there for you.
That's crazy, dude. That's insane.
But yeah, and that's the same with a lot of different products. So for example, the stacking tins, where are they? Here, I got some right next to me, I'm sure, because I have so many of them. These things, you have no idea how much my distributor hates these right now. These have 3 booster packs inside of them and a coin. It's called a stacking tin. It's a new item that just got released by Pokemon. It's basically, in addition to the Pokeball, it's like a Pokeball without the Pokeball. It's all it is. It's a Pokeball that doesn't dent the corners of the pack, basically.
Yeah, dude.
So that's what the stacking tins are. Amazon hates them. They're the number one go back, apparently. And so I've gotten so many of them.
And
Evolving Skies, Chilling Rain, Vivid Voltage.
And is it because the plastic or the shrink wrapping on the outside just like cuts easily, or like what's the issue with those?
He thinks that it was people who pre-ordered, and then now that the market's kind of come out and they saw what was inside, but there's evolving skies in it. So I personally don't agree with him on this one. He just thinks that after pre-ordering it that people didn't like what was inside of it, and it's all these go backs or whatever. I just think the market's not absorbing all these products like they used to. And people who were used to just buying things at retail and then seeing it go up in price and then sell it and make $5-10 or whatever, it's not happening anymore. And those people are now just sending returns back. And so yeah, so those stacking tins, like they usually retail, I think, for like $12.99 or $13.99 or whatever. I think I would usually have to buy them for like $10 if they were new. I get them for like $8 or something with the, because it's fine. They're not opened or anything either. It's just people buying them and sending them back. And so it's kind of a weird situation.
So do you pull up to the warehouse and kind of get your choice, or does he just kind of say like, this is what we've got? Like, can you kind of see how damaged the items are before picking them up, or does it just not really matter because you're just going for the contents anyways?
For the most part, for me, it doesn't matter, and I already know that. So I could pick and choose, like if I really wanted to, but I usually just take it all because it helps maintain the relationship with him. So that, like, he was feeling in the beginning of last year when he started getting all these returns, I would talk to him, and he would be pissed when he would get a return because it's just a pure loss. And so I was like, hey man, as long as product's legit and it's in there, if it's got a dented box, I don't care. I'll buy it off of you. I'll pay what you want. He started feeling like it was like me doing a favor for him because I was taking that dead inventory off. So like it built rapport with him over the course of time, that now I do just take everything because I know that if it's not, like, for example, I have gotten a couple of boxes where I didn't catch the box or he didn't catch the box. It literally was the packs, and someone opened the packs and put the cards back in the packs, put it back into the box and glued it with like Elmer's glue, and made it look nice enough that, you pick it up, you look at it, it looks fine, and you just think, oh, it's a dented box. No, it's resealed. He's good. He wants me to tell him that, and he like takes it off of my bill and doesn't charge me. But so I don't have to be picky about it because I have no risk, because I'm not worried if it is counterfeit. It's like, whatever, I'll just get my money back, and it's low risk, high reward for me. But yes, if I wanted to, I could probably pick and choose more. But like, yeah, there's a lot of like ETBs that have rips in them that I do just rip open for like 8 packs out of it. But at the discount, it's still worth the 8 packs. It's worth at least that.
So what percentage of, like, let's say you place a $10,000 order, what percentage
about
of that
$1,000 of it would be like go backs out of it, and that would be like extra. So like it's a small percentage, and that's only this recently. Like before, like I'll put a $5,000 to $6,000 order in, and like $100 of it were go backs. So there's like 4 things. Now there's a warehouse full of that shit, and just this month is when that started happening. And it's nothing's changed besides the market, and like, Astral Radiance is a mid set, or gas is expensive. I don't care what excuse it is. That to me is hugely telling. That is it. And especially when it's stuff like those Vaporeon boxes sometimes. And I got an ultra premium collection that had the wrapper completely off of it, but the contents were completely fine. And to the point where, like, what'd they do? They just opened it and looked to see the metal Charizard had a little ding on it, and then decided that wasn't the one for them and sent it back. That's fine. That's fine. I don't care. It's had so I have that. That's what's in here actually, is the wrapper is off, but the contents are in it. It's in my. It's like a glass case that I have, or an acrylic case for a UPC. I just threw that in there because it doesn't have the wrapper, but has everything else in it. So. Just for display purposes. But
that's crazy, man. I mean, that's a nice little model, and of course, like, that would be a unique situation to where it works for you, because like you said, like, you're breaking it anyways. You want the packs and the stuff inside, so the exterior condition doesn't really matter. That is interesting to hear, that there's so much backlog. I wonder how that product is going to be eaten up over time, if it's just going to be people like you that are still buying through it, or if like what do they do? You know what I mean? Because I'm sure they only have limited space, and you know,
Yeah.
so
And the more that comes back, like I said, those stacking tins, I bought 204 of them. So my last, that was how many, and that was just strictly not because that was all of them. That was just all I could fit in my particular order. Like, because you have to understand, 204 stacking tins, that's 9 big boxes. That's 9 big boxes that, you know, lug around basically, and then break down out of pack. It's a lot of work, like extra on the side after you get them. So those are just the one thing too. And then there's like the bigger, more awkward things, like the collection boxes. Like I'm positive the next time I see them, there's gonna be tons of cleaver boxes. Like those cleaver boxes were huge duds. People like cleaver's cool, like it's fine, like Scyther's fine, it's a full art, it's a promo, but like the boxes are lower than what they're retailing for right now. So there's gonna be tons of returns from people who just pre-ordered and then didn't want to keep their pre-order and decided to return it instead because it's not stonking. So like I'm guessing there's gonna be some of those. So that means I'll have a lot of promos, and I'll have a lot of extra pins and you know that kind of stuff. And it's not, I wouldn't call it a model. I wouldn't call it a model because as of just recently, it's become a lot more. And I don't know what'll happen in the future when I'm starting to say like, hey man, like, thanks, but I can't take all of this. Because up until now, I've said everything. And still I told him, I was like, hey, the stuff that I didn't buy, just save it for me. I want it all next time. Like I'm gonna keep on getting more. Because I don't know if I'm maybe too bullish on this, but I don't think that's gonna last. I don't think that you know that I
yeah,
think that it'll be corrected. That oversight, I think people will just stop ordering, so the go backs will stop. So I'm not going to be able to get a good deal forever in that regard. This is just going to be for this short
gotcha.
period of time where like people were still buying like it was the stonks period, but then they're going into the bearish period. They're not going to continue doing that.
And does it matter to like how hot the product, like the EV Premium collection, for instance, like, or the Evolutions Premium collections, like, is there a very small amount of those that have been
Yeah.
go backs just because they're such like
Yes. So
okay,
like I have a stack of 6 of them up there, and only one of them is Vaporeons. The rest are like Flareons and like a couple Jolteons. Because Vaporeons are the most. My distributor thinks that sometimes because Amazon, the way that you order those EV boxes, you order a random one. So if you order one, you don't know which one you're gonna get. So he thinks
gotcha.
people are ordering one, getting the wrong one, and sending them back, just trying to order another one and trying to get the right one. So some of
Okay.
those could be complete, not even dented. And I've had some that had like no dents or anything wrong. Or I was like, why is this? Okay, whatever, no questions. You know, hear no, hear no
But
evil, see no evil.
he doesn't have like hundreds of those,
Oh
you know
hell
what I mean,
no.
sitting.
Oh
Okay,
hell
yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah.
Hell no, no, no. Like, whereas the stacking tins, there are hundreds of those. There are, I get every time I get the couple of the, but you know, once in a while it's the ETB with the wrapper taken off, and once in a while it's the EV boxes, and sometimes it's a Shining Fates ETB that has a rip in it, and I'll take those packs all day. Like there's different things that you get, and it's random. So like it's less so about the items themselves though, and more so about the tale that tells about the macro economy and like what people are doing with their Amazon. That more what I'm trying to focus on more so though, because like to me that says a lot more. That just says that like the retail investors aren't doing their thing anymore. Like I don't even know if calling retail investors, that we can't even really call them that, because it's like, where are they? Like what's the thing? It's not a thing anymore. When government
Yeah.
doesn't have its hand sticking $1,200 in your pocket once in a while to buy stockies, I don't know if that's gonna.
Yeah. That's crazy though, man. That's crazy that that's such a drastic, to where like you said before, it would be, you know, like such a small amount, and now it's like, you know, 10% of your order, and he's got like sitting on a warehouse of stuff like that. I mean, it's got to go. I would imagine maybe like an MJ Holdings would be in the market to buy stuff like that, right? Because then they can remake their products by taking the packs out and like the coins and the promo cards, and you know what I'm saying? Is that
I don't know how MJ Holding does their thing with that. Or I think you're talking a Fairfield company, because MJ Holding is the distributor for the Walmart who like does the stocking and everything, but I think the company that actually repacks and makes stuff is the Fairfield company.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's what's on the back of all those like mystery packs or whatever.
Yeah. Because
One bonus item, and the bonus item is always some shitty pen, like a pen bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, so it's just interesting to wonder like where all that product is gonna go if the, and then I wonder too, like, does Pokemon come back in with select items that have high demand booster packs in them and then buy them back in mass, in bulk at a cheap price and then use them to repack new it's just interesting to think about like where all that stuff's gonna go, because no way in hell they're throwing that shit away. You know what I mean? Like there's
and,
no.
And at this point, I'm still going to buy it all. Like, I'm not at the
Yeah,
point where I'm willing to
yeah.
let my distributor give that back to the Pokemon company. I will literally be
Yeah.
on the phone with them tomorrow. I'll be like, hey, remember that warehouse? You still got it, right?
And so is your issue just like you said, like you have a car, you don't have a truck, like you just have
Yeah.
a car, so you can't get as much. Okay,
Yeah,
but you can like move through.
anyone who's listening who's out there who's like, oh my god, why hasn't this guy bought everything? Don't worry, I will. And it's literally
Okay.
I have a situation where I have a space situation and it's not like a huge pressing thing. So yes, very much so. But I will say though that being said, from what you said earlier too, though, I do think that now is a good time to start reaching out to some distributors and thinking about maybe if you're looking to get your resale license, you're looking to get your business license, whether it's sole proprietorship, LLC, whatever the hell you're doing with that, whatever your own situation benefits you, I would definitely start looking again. Because like while last year it would have been foolish to look, it would have been a waste of time. You would have just gotten laughed out of the email. They wouldn't even email you back. You could probably start getting on the phone and making calls. You could probably make some emails, and I bet you some of those reps are looking to fill some of those slots from those game stores that opened up, or those game stores who opened up over the course of the hype and just started ghosting them after they, couldn't start taking their allocations. Because it's not like those distributors are going to order less. They were ordering because these game stores were breathing down their neck like, hey, when's the next Battle Styles coming out? Hey, when's the next Chilling Reign coming out? Hey, got any more of those Fusion Strike ETBs? Like, they're like, like all last year. But those same guys are just like crickets now. It's like, where is it? Like, where'd they go? Well, they're selling sneakers now, or they're working at Wendy's, whatever it is. I don't know, but it's
Wendy's tendies, baby.
Yeah. They took their free tendies and now they're serving them out. They're serving them back. Yeah, but it is one of those times that I think that the turbulence should be sort of like maybe a little bit of a bell ringing for some people who are sitting back and like waiting and biding their time. By no means do I think that you should believe that this is your time to make it rich. But if you were patiently waiting for a time to strike, and if you were like sitting there thinking like, man, I really wish X, Y, or Z, well, X, Y, or Z may be close to happening and it may be your time. So maybe think about looking into that.
Yeah, I mean, I might, man, because like I said, I don't really have a whole lot of experience in the modern. Like for me, it's been like grinding, buying lots, buying singles, grading them, flipping them, like that kind of stuff. But that it is like a lot of work, and I feel like it's not quite as consistent, right? Like there's always deals to be had and stuff like that. But I just feel like if I had something that was more consistent and sustainable, right? Like I don't, the margins might fluctuate, right? Because one set's hotter than the other or whatever, but at least I know I'm guaranteed X amount of cases per month or what, per 2 weeks or however it works, right? Whereas like I might spend a week hunting for stuff to grade out or whatever, and I only find like 5 or 10 cards, and then like another week I might find 50, so it's up and down, and it is just a side hustle, but I just want to scale, man. I just want to keep on pushing forward, and see where I can take it, so
yeah. And with my talk with Dan, I think we talked about this. We said that like I asked him how soon he got distribution when he got back into the hobby, and he said almost immediately. and I do think that that's something that not the normal person does. I also did within a year of me getting back into the hobby. I had distribution, and I was buying not for my business but for myself in wholesale. So I do believe that there's a type of person that shops at Costco, that buys in bulk, that goes to the source and just wonders like, hey, like, why is this thing so expensive? And then looks at it and says, oh, well, maybe I can cut out some of those reasons for why it's so expensive and just go and get it where it starts at. And there's always that type of person. And I think that type of person and is very much so rewarded in these types of hobbies because, like, unlike other games like Magic the Gathering or Dragon Ball Super, or also Flesh and Blood, you actually have to have a brick and mortar facility where you run tournaments and you are in this whole club and like group you to buy their product. Pokemon's not that way. You just have to have a big business license and a resale license depending on your state. And I don't know if other states have other like laws, but for California, it's just business license, resale license. And so it's very much so easier to get into that card game, Pokemon in general, to buy in bulk. So I never understood why more people didn't until they shut down, you know, the doors, which they had never done before. And that was in 2020. So like I do think it's worth it. And I think that if you're already reselling, you're already gonna have to pay taxes at the end of the year anyway. You might as well just pay the $300 or however much your state charges for a business license and then get the resale license, and you may as well just go the full 9 yards, because if you're gonna buy the set, you might as well buy the set. And margins on modern are much, in my opinion, more reasonable. They're not as large, but they're more reliable, right? So you buy it you buy it at wholesale price and you sell it at retail, or you sell it at market value. Not every time, but most of the time you're going to do okay, because you're going to get a couple dollars. You're not going to make it rich, but you're going to essentially sell it at what's a fair rate.
Well, and even if I'm like breaking even on certain sets or certain, at least it's like it's keeping the money moving or whatever. It looks good to the distributor, and then when a good case, or you know, a good set does roll around, or items, you know, like the ultra premium collection, to where it's a complete moonshot straight out of the gate. That kind of stuff, in my mind at least, would like then make up for the stuff that you're just kind of breaking even on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the idea behind that, is that you just kind of keep it moving, right? And so yeah, I think that like there's a type of person who will never do that, because they're also the type of person who would never do anything for themselves. I think it's like there's a certain point where I think you are rewarded for putting in a little bit of work, and like there's a certain point where you're not rewarded at all for putting in a lot of work too. And there's 2 years in this hobby where I think you put in a lot of work, you weren't rewarded at all. But like I think we're getting slowly back to the point where like you can start putting in work again and start getting those rewards. They're not going to be huge rewards, but they're going to be reasonable. And that's why I lean on modern. Like my business model is not slabs. My business model is not singles where I'm buying collections and relying on like people coming to me. Like I can't rely on that at all. That's like luck of the draw. I do all that. I like that, but it's not my business model. My business model is breaking modern, is literally just modern. I have, you know, if you pan up, I have boxes of every modern set that I have booster boxes that I draw from, and I just open modern. That's all I do. And
so what advice, like to somebody that's like maybe listening to this that is just a casual collector, flipper, something like that? Obviously, like not everybody can like replicate what you've been able to build as a business and a platform and things like that. But like, what advice would you give to somebody that wants to like dip their toe into, you know, making money in these sorts of markets?
I always tell people that it's important to sort of just to venture, not totally, but just a little bit outside of your comfort zone. It's very important to sort of push yourself just a little bit farther, because the chances are, if you're a little bit uncomfortable selling a card, or if you're a little bit uncomfortable listing a card, most likely other people are also uncomfortable with that. And that's a barrier to entry that you can capitalize on, that you can maybe make a couple of bucks on. And so I would look at things that are, I would try to push myself. If I was just getting into the hobby and I'd maybe been in the hobby, but I'd never interacted with it trying to make money, I would try to do little things. Like I'd make a TCG player account and I try to just sell a card. I would try to sell a card directly on Instagram. Maybe if I didn't have a TCG player account and I wanted to just post my cards on my story, I would sell it, and I would try negotiating with someone and actually selling a card, even if it made me just a little bit uncomfortable. And so for me, when I entered the hobby, what made me uncomfortable that I did was looking up a distributor and calling them and getting a business license. That's not something that I was, I didn't go like on Tuesday for fun and get business licenses to go buy Pokemon card, or like I wasn't going to get business, that wasn't a thing for fun that I did. It was uncomfortable. I wasn't doing it for the sake of like resale at the time. I was buying it because I wanted that Costco membership. And the only way to buy wholesale was to get a business license and resale license. And so I literally called up distributors. I've told this story on the account a couple of times. I've called up distributors, said, hey, I just want to buy more than I can buy at my local Target on a regular basis. What do I need to do that? And they told me, hey, get a business license, apply, do all this stuff. And then I said, okay, cool. And if I do that, will you? And one of them said, yes, if you do that, I will accept you. And we started working. And so, and I didn't, and then after that, it exploded and I wasn't able to get into other distributors. So that's why I only have a one distributor, because it was literally a timing thing. I got in at Darkness Ablaze, Champion's Path, right between those two sets, which is just literally luck of the draw. Which, so anyone who's looking at
that's a good time.
I mean,
That's a
I
good time to
literally
get
couldn't
in.
have asked for, there's no way, anyone who's out there who's watching, you can do this. I want you to feel like you can. I got very lucky. The fact that I got lucky should not deter you though, because it is very much so something that's replicable. But you should just know that there's caution, and that there's risk involved. And I did get very lucky in my timing. So if anyone who's watching remembers, Darkness Ablaze was the last set you could order before they started doing the wave system or started selling things out like Vivid Voltage, and they started selling out and they stopped having supply. And Champion's Path was the first set, the first holiday set that they just went to the moon like crazy. Besides Hidden Fates, but Hidden Fates was available for a while. I was buying Hidden Fates tins for like $16 for like a long time from my distributor during 2020. So
that's
like
crazy, dude.
it was available by the case for a long time at distributors in the early parts of 2020. And that's just mine. I know the others had it too. So like I will say that like the advice I would give to someone would be, try to venture just a little bit out of your comfort zone, because like the chances are, like if you just keep on doing that a little tiny bit and you keep on entering into the hobby a little bit farther and doing one more thing, like maybe you've never bought a slab before, maybe you've never graded a card before, take that extra step, do that one thing that maybe you're a little tiny bit uncomfortable with. You'll learn from it. You might find that maybe the reason you're uncomfortable with it is it's not for you, but you'll also maybe find that like, hey, this isn't actually so intimidating. And then once you've done it, it's like, it takes that intimidation out of it. And then you're just like, hey, it's just like, that's not so hard. So that's all it is. And then you can start doing it yourself. And like, you can start getting better at it. So like people oftentimes, they want to be the best they possibly can at something before they start. And oftentimes I think people will never start something because they think, oh, I don't have enough money. Or like, I don't want to start a Pokemon business because I heard on PokeFlips, I need $70,000 to start a Pokemon business. Otherwise, I'm a fool. That's not what they said. It was much more nuanced than that. But what's up, Dan? I watched your podcast today. But
I need to go watch that
there's
too.
a lot of talk around like, you need X amount of money to start this. You don't need anything to start anything. All you need is a good go-getter attitude. And you have to be willing to accept a certain amount of risk, I would say. Depending on what level of risk you're able to accept, that's, of course, depending on everyone's individual situation. But like, I would say though, that I want you to be encouraged. If you're out there and you're watching, I want you to be encouraged. I want you to go and try to step out of your comfort zone just a little bit, not a lot, don't go jump out of a plane or anything. If that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, try to sell a card. If you've never sold a card, start there. Try to sell a card. Then you can think about starting your Pokemon empire. And then once you've sold a card, maybe try to sell 2 cards. Maybe try to do a seller account on some of these seller platforms. Maybe reach out to me and I'll get you on Whatnot or something. So, you get on Whatnot and start selling like that, or whatever avenue it is that you take. I think there are different routes you can take, but I don't think you need like $100,000 to be able to start. I don't think you need $10,000 to be able to start. I think you can start with your binder with the love, you could go to your local well, not now, but there was a point where I think you could literally go to your local Target, you could buy something, and then you could sit on it for 6 months. I would say sell it later and have a little capital, but that's not a thing anymore. That's not really good advice anymore, right? That's some of the stuff we're trying to get away from. But there are lots of entry points. That's my whole point. And I would say my best advice is to just get out there and sell your cards. It's a good thing to sell your cards. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you're not a collector. It doesn't mean that you don't love those cards. I sell all kinds of cards I love.
Right on. Well, I don't know about. I feel like that's a good note to cap it off on. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a really great place to stop here. And anyone who did watch this whole time, we greatly appreciate you sticking by. It's been a fun conversation. We've gone through some hills and some valleys, but yeah, I do think I feel bad about keeping Flex for so long. Anyone who's watching, we were talking for like 2 hours before. It was like an hour and a half before we got started here. I did not realize we were on any time constraints, so that's my bad. But if you stuck around, you guys are some real ones for sure.
Yep, appreciate you guys watching for sure.
Like and sub.
A good one.
Go to Retrospecs right now, because I know there are a small portion of you, it better not be a large portion, but a small portion who aren't already subbed. And so go sub to Retrospecs and then go sub to our channel if you're not already. We're doing our 1,000 follower giveaway here. So yet to be announced, because we're doing a whole big thing around it, but yeah, you'll definitely want to be around for that. So thanks again, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Cardboard Hands, and we'll see you guys on the next one here.
Adios.